empty set. Ewers with pressure in his face, escapes the pocket, tucks the run. Across the 25, has the first down, stays in bounds and takes it all the way into the end zone.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Another carry for Damian Martinez, cuts it back. Touchdown, number 3.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Youngblood, the man in motion. Simon feels the pressure. Hit as he throws. Intercepted. There he is. Cooper DeJean. And he's got some space in front. DeJean still on his feet across the 25. DeJean is going to take it for a pick 6.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Sanders looking wide open, touchdown, Dylan Edwards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time it's going to be Leonard on the ground. Leonard showing some moves and some speed. A foot race to the 10, to the touchdown. 56 yards. Beautiful run by Riley Leonard.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hampton wide open running. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Carolina.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon, 365 Sports in studio. David Smoak. I'm over in the corner like I had gotten in trouble back when I was a kindergartner. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak are on the set. We will take you up until 6 today, Central Time. Don McPherson, former Syracuse great, who is very much involved in college football, Hall of Famer today. Brett McMurphy today. Chuck Cooperstein and Steve Uryas, who's the AD at Tarleton State. Remember, they wanted to petition the NCAA football to be a part of the postseason. They were denied. Baseball had a hell of a year. Same thing, they were denied. Also, we'll look at the Big Ten running backs and so much more to get to in Paul's top 5, too. All right, so this was interesting. This perked my attention. Florida AD Scott Strickland, as the SEC meetings continue down in Destin, Florida. He says that we have a good relationship with our friends in Tallahassee. No school has a veto in this league. If you get 3/4 of the league and support expansion, we're going to expand. Anybody who made our league better, we'd be supportive of joining the SEC. He mentioned even back when they made the cases for Arkansas, South Carolina, A&M, Missouri, then Texas and OU. Paul Catalina, why would he go out and say this? Is this just in case we will love you to join the conference, but we know you're probably not going to?
Well, first of all, the Florida State, like if you had the election this year, Big Ten versus everybody else, then FSU people would say Big Ten. That's where they want to be because they're mad at the SEC because Greg Sankey, did everything he could to keep them out of the playoff and was successful last year. And then, on top of that, I don't think there's a huge push to want to be in the conference with Florida. I just think that's a fan base thing. But also you say it because people are going to keep asking you about it. But also it puts there's a narrative out there that says, Florida doesn't want them in the league or that South Carolina wouldn't want Clemson. And to that, Texas A&M can say, we didn't want Texas, and we were completely overruled. So Scott Strickland here is just laying out the format for which, if FSU is in, if Florida is the only one who says they don't want them, well, it doesn't really matter what Florida thinks at all.
They're going to go in. Craig?
Yeah, I think the same thing. I don't know how the topic of conversation came up, if he was just asked about it. I mean, that might have been why it was brought up to begin with, or if he just offered it up freely. I'd imagine he was probably asked about it.
I think he was asked, yeah.
Yeah, in responding to that, I'm sure he was prepared for those types of questions, given all the stuff that's swirling around right now with the ACC and Florida State. And I think his opinion doesn't really matter. Like Paul just said, I don't think it really matters what Scott Strickland thinks about Florida State joining the SEC. The same way it didn't matter what Texas A&M thought, to his point. But he gave the political answer and didn't give Florida State any ammunition to say, see, they want to prevent us from getting into the league.
Yep.
He gave the diplomatic response, which then did what? It rubbed Florida fans the wrong way because they're getting a little fed up with Scott Strickland, it seems like. And I think Scott Strickland probably signs his receipts with like SS, like as dollar signs. I think the money is all that matters to Scott Strickland ultimately. And so if Florida State was going to bring more money to the SEC, I think that would be more up his alley than any concerns about them biting into the pie of the Gators or anything along those lines. I think that he sees how it would be beneficial, especially financially, to have a school like that, a rivalry like that within the confines of the SEC. I mean, you've already got Oklahoma and Texas, for example. You got Texas A&M. You've got Florida, Alabama. You've got so many of these great rivalries. Why not add another one on top of that? Now, I also think he is in a position, as some people in the comments to one of the tweets that I saw pointed out, where he probably knows it's not likely, so he can be the diplomatic guy and say that and not come across as the Florida guy who's trying to prevent FSU from coming to the league. He knows that there's probably not the strong percentages lie in that area anyways. So, yeah, sure, we'd welcome them, knowing full well that they're probably going to the Big Ten. So he doesn't look like the bad guy. So I think there was some politicking going on with his answer. Nothing to make too much of it. But, again, I find the most curious responses to be those who think that he actually was going to do anything to stop it if that's, in fact, what Greg Sankey or Florida State wanted to do.
We've learned that about the SEC. By the way, A&M's AD did not get that opportunity to answer that question anywhere because it was such a blindside deal.
Just woke up in the morning and that's how it was.
Would love to have been able to have someone, though, ask him that a year or two prior and just see what he would have said then. Like, that's not even a possibility. Well, Strickland, by the way, did make it clear that there have not been any conversations. No one's had any conversations. This is a scenario where somebody walks in and says, here's the school, here's what we have. So it's not as if they've had, now maybe they have had, I don't know, but it's not like it's been on the agenda.
Well, no, I mean, it can't be on the agenda because it's not real yet. It's just now in theory. So before they even have to put it on, like, why put it on the agenda when they're still lawyers to lawyer in all these things and judgments to be made? I mean, you can have little backup plans, and I'm sure Greg Sankey has several maps of like, all right, plan A, okay, plan B, come on down. Like, that's how it would be. But also, here's the thing, it's almost lose-lose for Scott Strickland, anything other than this, and he even lost a little bit in this, of what he was like, no, because then it's going to be, like Craig said, they're afraid. They're afraid, they're keeping them out. This is the least amount of ammunition that he can give people. And if the worst thing he can do is...
So by being honest, although a politically by being honest, he gets drilled.
Yeah, if the worst bullets he has to take are from the angriest of Florida fans who never want Florida State in the conference, then that's fine. There's plenty of them that probably do. I don't know. I mean, I would assume the same thing.
I don't see why Texas wouldn't want Florida State and Clemson in the SEC. It doesn't really affect them. Oklahoma, I think you're just bringing in better teams. I can see where South Carolina would have an issue. I'd see where Florida would have an issue, much like A&M would have had an issue. But, again, we just have to point to A&M and say they went completely around them and they were irrelevant in the decision-making process when it came to Texas and Oklahoma. Now, they're not a day one member, so I can see where maybe you think an older school like a Florida would have more say, but I doubt it, especially as you grow larger. Your say gets less and less, if anything, right? Because the room gets bigger. So I think if you're any SEC team, you know you're never going to be hurting for money. You also, I don't think, want to be like 24 schools because there is too big. There becomes a situation where the leagues just get ridiculously large. I think the Big Ten's already like playing around with that total right now.
What are they, 18 or 20?
18.
Yeah.
And I think that's like pushing it. But I think if you were, in the SEC, sure, more competition, maybe more mouths to feed, all that, but you're not hungry by any means. You got leftovers every night, and I understand in this new era you're going to need every penny, so to speak, but I don't think money is going to be the issue in these decision-making processes for the SEC at least, and I think that if you're just looking at the big picture, yeah, I don't know about going and adding like Virginia and, NC State or just some of these schools where it feels like you're not really additive. But Florida State and Clemson, just because of the rivalries and the history and the geography, I think that would be a pretty incredible conference.
And football.
In football, yes.
All right, so there we are with that. I do still, back to the Texas and Oklahoma deal that with Brett Zerneman, he was leaked that story. Now, depends on who you ask, and Brent kind of gave us that background a year after it all happened. But don't you still think that there's a way the SEC or Sankey could have given them at least a glimpse of what was about to be announced? But the problem is they weren't ready to announce it. Remember, that was supposed to be still shrouded. And then all of a sudden, Zerneman gets the story. And so A&M knew because someone gave it to him.
Yeah. Well, Brent told them. I mean, that's the thing is Brent Zwerneman told them.
And they're like, what? And so there we are with that. Now, speaking of A&M.
I think the thing that Scott Strickland said worse was when he said friends. I think that's what bothered people the most based on what I saw. Our friends in Tallahassee, people did not take kindly to that.
Our little honey buddies, right? Yeah. Trev Alberts, I love this quote. I'm not all what he did at Nebraska and then moved to A&M. That didn't bother me at all. I just hate the fact that he was a player there and left, but they seem to have a pretty good one, it appears, in Troy Denon. So, Trev Alberts, this is a great quote to me. It's about the SEC spring meetings and also the money and expenses and all that. We've just always had enough increased revenue to overcome dumb expenses. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. We don't have a revenue problem in college athletics. We have an expense problem.
Yes. And look, we could get into the weeds about certain teams and how they have travel budgets and different things like that, but that's really a drop in the bucket compared to this graphic right here. When you see what's a dumb expense, and Trev Alberts knows because he is now the shepherd of this dumb expense. But Jack, throw up the buyouts here. They have $77 million paying to this coach that he's not coaching anymore because they made a dumb two different dumb contracts to him. Two different dumb contracts to Jimbo Fisher. Yep. They double down. And then you see the other big buyouts of, Tom Herman and $15 million, and Auburn and $20 million to Gus, and Charlie Weiss's $18.9, and how bad all those schools looked when you said oh man, they got to pay out $20 million or $15 million to their coach. Well, the expense problem of $77 million, that's almost all those others combined.
That's not just Fisher, is it? There could be some assistants who are also a part of it.
But $77 million they're going to buy out.
So 3 times, more than 3 times the next in charge when it comes to the buyout top 5.
If I was a Florida State fan, I would have skipped over the Willie Taggart one too, Paul.
Oh, yeah. I thought
I'm sure that was just totally unintentional.
Yeah.
But how about $4 million for Trev Alberts' buyout from Nebraska?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of money that just gets set on fire, and they used to just set that on fire with amenities in their athletic facilities, and now most of them are caught up, and so they don't really have that outlet to go down that pathway. So it's stadium work or it's this or that. Now, recruiting visits, you're not spending as much in theory because you're not getting all the bells and whistles that you used to. Now, I don't know how many thousands of dollars you racked up in cookie cakes. I don't think those really make a difference, or streamers or whatever, decorating rooms.
We are a big fan of cookie cakes in this family.
Yeah, so it's definitely a sport where they waste a lot of money, and they're only going to be making more money in the SEC. So it'll be interesting to see how that's all sort of balanced. Clearly, a lot of it's going to be going to the players, and more so than ever before. But he's onto something, and he should know. He's experienced it firsthand, and he experienced seeing money set on fire just recently when he made the move to College Station. So
and he was there. They were going through a transition when Scott Frost was fired, and I think Frost got some money. I'm not sure exactly how that worked out, but he's seen that where he has been. Now, Travis Goff is a rising star when it comes to college athletics. KU has given him an extension. They're in really good shape, man. Their basketball team's as good as anybody year in and year out. They've got Bill Self, and, of course, now they also have they have a guy named Lance Leipold who's doing a pretty good job. A lot of people want. Kansas is redoing their stadium, although that's been tweaked a little bit Travis Goff with a nice chunk and an extension to his contract.
Well, to get football to where it's now, it was always making revenue because it was football. But to get it to where you have fans excited about football, you have fans donating to a football renovation project, and you've got that done. That alone gets your you an extension. Donations are at an all-time high. And look, after this last year, the NIL for the basketball program took a huge step forward in a program that I'm going to call Never Again because that was not going to be a year where they were happy with the way they finished, and Travis Goff navigated that really well. And so because of that, give an extension. Try to keep him away from somebody else. If you can get Kansas fans not only going to football games, but excited about football and convinced that they have a shot to win the conference title now in the new Big 12, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, they've done a great job.
I'm always leery when I see 7-year deals in college sports because those never seem to last their lifetime, but I think that makes a lot of sense because then you obviously have a buyout that's going to be substantial, you would think, at least with a contract that length. So if somebody were to come calling, which I imagine some people have, and if they stay on the same trajectory, I imagine many more will, to gauge his interest in heading to wherever, then I think Kansas, in theory, should be secured with this new deal pretty well. And also just the security of having him locked down like that in general. It's a huge commitment on the part of the school, and it's a huge commitment on the part of Travis Goff to sign that extension. So I think it's just another patch of good news for KU, which has seen a lot of that here lately, and particularly with the momentum the football program has. The basketball programs, pretty much impossible to derail, really. But certainly people have tried, and they are still just steady Eddie with Bill Self, and to have the football component now working as well as it is, so long as they can keep that together, KU's in really, really good shape. And they're a school that gets brought up as, all right, beyond Florida State and Clemson, who would be the next wave? I don't know how many more waves we've got, guys.
Yeah.
I know there's more to come, but I don't know realistically how many waves we're talking about, but you would think that if there were a couple more, then maybe KU gets involved somewhere there. But regardless, they're set up really well for whatever is coming down the pipeline, whether that's, the Big 12 and trying to grab the horns of the conference and be the lead dog now in many ways, or if that's, bettering yourself and then having an opportunity down the line to join one of the other two. They're going to be set with the alignment that they've now created over these past few years. So, they're in a good spot.
When the AD and football coach are all on the same page, it's a good thing. And because when you get an AD change, even if the football coach is successful or vice versa, you never know how things can go south. Lincoln Riley, this story by Saturday Down South, is USC opens up against LSU. And according to this story, USC was trying to get out of this game in Vegas. There was the story that when Lincoln Riley took the job at USC, it's because he wanted to avoid the SEC. Now, whether that's true, he's a great football coach, although last year obviously was a disappointment. This year might be a little bit of a reload for them, although we will see that. It's not a good look if it's true. It's not a good look even if it's not true. And these are the games, to me, that I love about college football.
Well, it's also the games you're going to need to play now, because you're going to need to win, or you're going to need, if one of your losses is that game and it was a good game,
yes,
you're going to need
against a highly ranked opponent.
Good wins and good losses when you start sorting out, especially if you're not I guess if you're USC, you can assume you're going to win the Big Ten, but. I don't know why they should do that. They haven't won their Pac-12 in quite a while. So,
dude, they're borderline top 5, maybe in the Big Ten next year. They just lost Caleb freaking Williams. Yeah. What are they about to do? Hey, you had a good performance in a bowl game. Who gives a damn? They're walking into Ohio State and Michigan. I know Michigan's got to reload, but Penn State, Oregon, Washington. Washington's got to reload as well. Oregon's got to some extent, but I don't think they're even guaranteed top 5 based on everything that we know.
Well, last year in their own conference that they were in the Pac-12 with about. Caleb Williams.
Yeah. So
you have Michigan, Texas, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, A&M, Miami, and Florida. And then you have this. That's, to me, what I love about the first week or two of college football. Yeah, you have also Muleshoe State against somebody else. But I just,
and
you know.
You brought up Muleshoe because of Lincoln Riley, I know. But I swear to God, I wasn't thinking that way, but I guess AI put that in my,
subliminally, you were obviously thinking that way. You don't randomly pull out Muleshoe and talk about Lincoln Riley.
I was going to say Moorhead, but I didn't want to hurt Moorhead State.
But I think Lincoln Riley has these little, and it doesn't affect my opinion of him as an on-field coach, but he's got these little, like, missteps that happen.
Bitch fits.
What?
These little bitch fits kind of in a way.
Yeah. Getting mad at a guy who's in his first literal month of his first job of his life, and he talked to a player on the, and he's, oh no, he's out. And it's like, oh, well, you know, you could tell him like, hey, could you kind of follow this process? We prefer that. And then you keep it professional as opposed to like, darn you 22-year-old snake, and throwing him out there. And then, of course, the brisket thing and the fish thing.
The brisket thing is something he'll never overcome.
I mean, he shouldn't. He will never
overcome.
Look, if you're going to kill a cow, you should at least respect its honor by cooking it well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the gist of this was, because I don't think we really touched on it, we kind of talked around it, but he was trying to get out of the USC-LSU game at the beginning of the year. He went he went pretty quickly to his AD, tried to start working around that. There were obviously some changes in at the top and whatnot, so you were navigating some of that, but went through the networks, tried to get the networks involved in getting this changed, and ultimately all of those efforts were failed efforts because nobody was interested in moving this game or changing this game besides Lincoln Riley and maybe the people at USC that were supporting him in that effort. But beyond that, it doesn't sound like anybody else came close to even flinching on this game. So the reasons are mysterious. We don't really know the full reasons as to why, other than you're just avoiding to, possibly get beat up early on in the season or lose to an SEC team, and that's a blemish or whatever other reasons he might have. But it's just another little blip that you just kind of think a little bit less maybe of Lincoln Riley. I think some people, with the whole handling of his Oklahoma situation, he lost a lot of fans, obviously. I, as an Oklahoma fan, didn't like it, but I also felt that was very college football. Like, that is nothing new, or just like, I didn't become one of those people who's like, but he said, it's like, yeah, he's a college football coach. They all lie. They lie to do whatever they can to get what they want. And so that is across the board. I don't care who you are. They do what they want to get what they want. And so I never trusted Lincoln Riley to begin with. Did I think he'd leave Oklahoma the way he did? No, absolutely not. But I didn't really begin to hate the guy for that. But I do feel like he's had missteps along the way that just have kind of added up and have painted him in a different light.
He needs to win.
And he needs to win.
I mean, he's won, but he needs to surprise some people.
He's put more of a pressure on himself than I think was really there now, because now you've got, everybody who is on the Oklahoma side of things, or just people who don't like Lincoln Riley, who now are like loving that the pressure's ratcheting it up a little bit. All right, let's see what you do post Caleb Williams. Oh, now you're trying to get out of a game against LSU. So you are scared of the SEC, like people have always said, and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of that reputation building up, and the only way to cure that is to go beat LSU. But
I wonder if he would have done that if Williams was back.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's got, what do you call them, Craig? What do you call those little fits? Bitch fits?
It's called a little bitch fit, yeah. I feel like that's what they are. They're little bitchy things that just crop up from time to time, it seems like, with him. And it's kind of become not a pattern, but it's just something where I feel like his reputation is like taking little dings here and there, and a lot of it's been self-inflicted. And so he's looked at it in a little bit of a different light for me. And not just solely because of the USC switch up, but I think across the country he's looked at it like not as much of a ferocious, the future of head coaching in college football, but like, this guy's kind of a B. You know what I mean?
And look, there's two kinds of lying in college football. There's the normal coach lying, and then there's the coaches that will just say, I don't want to talk about that, which is basically translates for, I can't get this lie out of my mouth without feeling guilty, so I'm not going to talk about this. So.
He's got a little PR work to do. He needs somebody to sit down with him and maybe tell him. Two different lies. I like that.
He needs the speech that I think a lot of people in life need. If he walked in and listed the problems of like, oh, I've got a 22-year-old Porter I was mad at, and I want to get out of this game, and I want to do this and this and this, and then he's going to be like, man, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, don't worry about that. You have enough to worry about. You've got to recruit, and you've got to help raise funds, and you've got to do all these things, and you've got to still be the most brilliant quarterback coach in the country, and all these things. So all this other stuff that comes at you, who cares?
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Scottie Scheffler story, because we have Don McPherson, former great at Syracuse, College Football Hall of Famer, joining us via Zoom at around 3:30 today. Charges, you could see this coming. I kept waiting, and then there would be something else. And today there was an audio clip on video of another police officer the morning that he was arrested by the Louisville Police Department, going back and forth and kind of discussing what was going on. This was a bad deal from the time it happened. Could Scottie Scheffler have done a couple of things differently? Sure. The charges have been dropped. He does not want to press charges. He wants to move on. He probably could and win, but this thing is finally, at least for now. Now the question is, what does Louisville Police Department do with Sergeant Gillis and anyone else? But that story, at least for that part of it, comes to an end.
Probably paid leave and pat on the butt for getting them in the headlines, even though it's bad press. I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming the worst, but I don't know. I watched the video. I don't like. And this, I know there's a lot of people be like, that's every cop. I don't believe that. I believe there are plenty of good cops out there, but I hate cops on power trips. I absolutely hate it. And I felt like there was a lot of that going on. I do feel like Scottie kind of misspoke a couple times.
Yep.
And definitely it wasn't as clear black and white as it was portrayed to be, as though like he did nothing wrong and said nothing wrong. And clearly when he's talking to one of the cops, the cop, he's like, why didn't you listen to the guy in the jacket? And he's, he kind of like,
he thought he was a security.
He thought it was security. Yeah. He's like, well, why, if he thought it was a security guard, why didn't you stop for him? So that got to be a little bit confusing and kind of an area where you could see where maybe Scottie should have listened to that guy in the yellow jacket, even if he was just a security guard. But that's really like, that's not a big thing in the long run, and it didn't need to turn into what it turned into. And I do think the cop who kicked all this off was on a power trip. The way you see him run over the car and like slam the window with whatever he was holding, flashlight. I mean, that was BS. That was BS. There was no need for that. This cop, if you look at his history, has had incident after incident after incident, and he's still on the job and will continue to be on the job. And I find all that to just be disgusting. But Scottie probably didn't do himself any favors with a couple of his answers, but it was not a huge deal in the long run.
His attorney was saying that he was being misled by the questioning of the police officer talking to him, which is why you don't maybe say anything.
Right, exactly. And they're talking to you to get you to keep talking and to potentially incriminate yourself. So, yeah, the best advice is to not say anything. And so, yeah, I think there was an element of that as well. I think in the long run, big picture, Louisville PD looks stupid, and rightfully so. And I think Scottie Scheffler maybe learned a lesson just in terms of how you deal with cops, maybe, if he has to do that in the future. But ultimately, this was blown way out of proportion. And I think it's a bad look for Louisville PD more than anything else. And I think it's only right that the charges are dropped, and they should have been. And I'm glad to see that, and I'm not surprised whatsoever based on all the information that we had.
Don McPherson, former Syracuse great quarterback, College Football Hall of Famer. He was really good. He's also very much involved in college athletics. He's very much involved in protecting women's sports and what they have. He will come back and discuss with us, and we'll ask him questions about college football, athletics today, among some other things as well. He is next. Don McPherson, next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be by going to the website, PettyClinicalOT.com. Tell them I sent you. You can go in there. There's a phone number. There's an email. Tell them what maybe your symptoms are, and are they any of these? You're lethargic. You're not sleeping the same. You've gained some body fat around your stomach, and yet you're active. You exercise well, and even you have a good diet. It could be, yes, it could be sex drive. A lot of those are symptoms of low testosterone. Sometimes they're not. But Dr. Petty wants to find out, and he can help you find out. Contact him. He'll set you up with blood work. They will take care of that for you. You give your blood, they get the results, and then if your testosterone level appears to be light, a little bit lower, maybe way low, he could put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you could become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Don McPherson, Syracuse University College Football Hall of Fame class of 2008, but also a speaker, an author, a broadcaster, and so much more, joins us on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. Don, thank you for your time. Always enjoyed when you were a player, but also enjoy what you do now in a lot of different ways for a lot of different causes. What is your feeling right now when you see so many moving parts in such a short amount of time as a former student athlete is what we have in college athletics?
Well, first of all, it's good to be on with you all, and hello to Central Texas. I've been around college athletics for nearly 40 years. My first year here at Syracuse was 1983, and I think it's an unfortunate time, quite frankly. I think we've gotten away from the things that made the game great. I think that we got away from the things that made the proposition of being a student athlete and having the opportunity for an education. I think we've thrown that away in this chase for the money, quite frankly. And I think it's I'm a traditionalist. I'm an old school guy, and I just think that in the move to, and I go back. I go back to 1990 and 1991 when we had two back-to-back split national championships, and all of a sudden it was like we have to have a number one in college football, and Division II and III do it, and so we kept fooling around with different formulas to try to get to it, which was never going to get to it as long as the bowl system was in place and the conferences control the relationship with the bowls. And so there's been this really uncoordinated, I think there's been a tremendous lack of leadership in getting us to this point where we are now over the years. And as a guy who loves college football and loves college athletics, it's been frustrating to watch.
So, Don, if you could go back to 1983 when you were a student athlete, how would you have liked to see it set up then, given the things that we have now where you can be a student athlete, get an education, make money, and do all those things together, but still have the same kind of goals?
Are you there, Don? I think it just froze. Yeah, his picture just froze. I believe it did. Trying to see if we can reconnect with him on that. Don McPherson, by the way, played quarterback at Syracuse. He also played in the NFL. He at least had a year in the NFL, and then also was a part of the Canadian Football League. And he is a studio analyst and does some color analyst work when it comes to college football, too, with college football. Paul, you going to just call him?
Yeah.
Okay, call him. We'll try to connect. I got to say this, and I don't mind saying this I think our Zoom link, our setup might be some issues because of some things that we've had. All right, we got him back. Okay, good. Don, thank you very much. Sorry about that. We had you freeze on the screen. Paul, follow up your question with Don if you don't mind.
All right, let's jump in the DeLorean and go back to 1983 when you were starting out. How would you, as a former student athlete or a student athlete then, would like to have seen this set up so it flowed to the point where everything was fair and equitable or more fair and equitable for players, that you could own your own name and image and likeness and things like that?
So the big problem that has happened over the years is what everyone gets frustrated with the term amateurism, and as well, student athlete. Are these truly student athletes? And the thing that has not happened over the years is that the business started going this way, and college athletics was trying to stay on the same path of amateurism, hiding behind college presidents, hiding behind the NCAA, have been making more and more money, and not including players in it. And what I mean by that, not necessarily including them in the growth of the money, but the growth of the business. And where the lack of imagination has been is in the growth of the business. Keep student athletes involved in that business. Teach us about the nature of the business that student athletes are at the heart of growing. There's so many different ways they could have created a retirement sort of package plan for student athletes who contribute into it. When they graduate, they get to cash out of that retirement package or whatever it was. There's so many different ways that they could have been creative, but there was a lot of people who thought, when it hits the fan, I'm going to be dead and gone. I remember Kevin White saying this years ago at a meeting up in New York. He said, those of us we know these things are coming. We know the money is growing. We know coaches' salaries are increasing. We know the TV revenue is going to grow because of what we saw with the Big Ten network in the early 2000s. We knew these things were coming. And so many people, instead of being very creative and being innovative, just allowed the money train to keep going. And I'll tell you, I go back to 91 when the split national championship, but also my first NCAA convention was in 1994. And I watched little by little the NCAA start serving fewer and fewer schools. The Ivy League left because they said, you guys are talking about initial eligibility. We don't have those issues. Then Division II and III left. Because they said, you guys are worried about TV contracts and realignment. Division II said, we don't want to go to convention, right? And then little by little, the Power Five, and recognizing that the conferences control football, the NCAA controls sort of the governance and basketball. And so football was growing and driving them. Jim Boeheim was very upset when Syracuse left the Big East for the ACC, but football was driving the bus, not basketball. And so little by little, the NCAA has been serving fewer and fewer schools and fewer students. And then we got to the NIL moment when the NCAA said, because several states had a law being enacted, the NCAA said, okay, everyone do what you want. And it's a free-for-all. And now we're in this place now where I think it's an irretractable moment.
Don, I know that you are very much involved, entrenched in trying to for women's sports. And my question is, with what the settlement brought, and there are now some opportunities, not just football, but we know that drives the bus, as you mentioned, men's basketball. Is there any concern about the Title IX, not the Title IX that sometimes we hear about now, but Title IX of what it was from the beginning about the equality for women's sports and scholarships, and in the same vein, getting money, although they're fed money from men's basketball and football?
There's going to be a big Title IX issue, and first of all, if anyone tells you they know where this is going, they're lying, because no one knows where this is going. And the Title IX question, it's funny because people keep talking about the business and how the business and all the money that's being generated, but you got to remember, as much money is being generated at Alabama or anywhere, Syracuse or wherever else, Georgia, all the the big programs that people think are generating a lot of money. Those are still academic institutions that receive federal dollars, and that's what Title IX is about. Title IX is not a gender equity in sport law. It's about how money is distributed, federal dollars are distributed based on your population that you serve. And so there's going to definitely be a Title IX issue if they go towards this direction where this recent settlement is saying, okay, there's going to be essentially a salary cap that they can cap and spend X amount of dollars on that athletic program. There's going to be a lot of disparity in schools based on tuition and what it costs to go to that school. The host of issues and problems that are going to arise from where it's going right now. And I think that's why you heard Greg Sankey over the weekend or the last couple of days talking about some sort of congressional interference to get in somebody to come in and manage this, because without that, you're going to have not just Title IX issues, you're going to have union issues. If players start to unionize, student athletes start to unionize, well, you know what? There's other unions on campus who want the same benefits that athletes are getting. And that means tuition remission. That means salary comparisons. There's going to be a whole host of issues once you start to try to professionalize college athletics within the nonprofit academic institutions of higher education.
Don, like Smokey said, you've long been an advocate for women's sports, and we're seeing probably the most competitive 2 seasons of basketball we've ever seen on that side. We've seen this may be the best softball season, competitive top to bottom, that we've seen. Is this not only the function of more eyeballs on it, but of finally maybe history correcting itself, where girls are playing sports for longer and staying in sports for longer than they were in the 80s and 90s?
Well, let me just clarify one thing. The work that I do is not just around women in sports. The work that I do is around the prevention of all forms of men's violence against women. And that does get into the gender equity issue, where I've done some work. I think what we're seeing now in women's success in sport, first of all, women have always been, I won't say successful, has always been athletic and have been performing at a very high level. And now, because we have more media outlets and we're seeing more high level performance of women as the game has gotten better, and quite frankly, more media attention, women are just getting the highlight that they've always deserved. And I do think that it's coming at a very interesting time. By the way, my favorite sport, I'm a college football junkie. I don't know much about many other things. But my favorite sport to watch on television is softball, because of just the great camera angles and the way that women play the game. And so those games, while they're getting elevated, are coming at a time when the disparity in women's and men's athletics on college campuses is really being highlighted by this move and this generation of literally, I mean, there's no female comparison to when the $7.4 billion deal is being offered up for the playoff alone for college football. There's no female sport comparison to that. So without question, while women's sports is definitely getting more notoriety and more getting the attention it deserves, it's not going to compare. And again, in a very weird space of college athletics, it's not supposed to be about which team generates the most money. It's about an opportunity for all student athletes.
All right, so we're in Central Texas in Waco, and you know the story that Baylor went through back in 2015, 16, and then for a few years after that. But not the only school. There's been other schools where you've had these sexual assault, domestic violence, or whatever else. Is it an athletic department problem? Because people seem to kind of point that finger. Isn't it a university campus problem?
No. And it's very easy to point the finger. Now, you will have, at the same time that Baylor was going through its problems, USC was going through similar. Michigan State went through some similar things. Penn State went through their issues. There's no question about it when you have large institutions that protect men who are perpetrators of that kind of violence because of whether it's money or prestige or just business as usual in very many ways with large organizations that protect their own. It's not something new, nor is the problem, years ago, and I'm a New Yorker, and years ago, I remember, all the talk about athletes and violence against women. And I would say at any given time, at the time, there were some 8,000 restraining orders in New York City. It wasn't the Yankees and the Mets and the Giants and the Jets who were committing all this violence. It is a very serious problem throughout our society. The good thing that sports does is it elevates sometimes the conversation, and it's how I got involved in the work nearly 30 years ago. The bad thing is very often that sports can skew the conversation and allow the average man off the hook. Well, that's athletes' problems. Oh, that's a sports problem. And the reality is it's a major systemic social problem.
Don McPherson, class of 2008, College Football Hall of Fame with us. Craig?
Don, one of those people that came here to Waco right after that happened and helped to start to change the culture was Fran Brown. He was a part of Matt Rule's staff, one of the first big assistant hires. Obviously, he's now at Syracuse, and he's creating some noise now. I mean, they haven't played a game yet under him, but recruiting well. There's some excitement there. Do you feel that? And when's the last time you've maybe had this kind of energy level surrounding Syracuse football?
It's been a long time since there's been any excitement. Doug Marone came back as alum several years ago, talked about it being his dream job, but he didn't last very long. Maybe it became a nightmare for him. I'm not sure exactly what happened with Doug, but Fran has been here. I'm glad you said that he hasn't played a game yet, and not that I'm poo-pooing on Fran, but people say, "What do you think of the team?" I'm like, "It's April. Yeah. Ask me in October. I can't judge college football in April." But I will say this: that Fran's doing exactly what he was hired to do. He's got energy back. One of my old teammates who's a Syracuse native, he's happy. I'm happy because my guy Robert Drummond. If Robert Drummond's happy with the coach, I'm happy with the coach of the program. We've alienated over the years our alumni. Fran has done a fantastic job of bringing alumni back and getting guys back involved. Lots of access to the program. The town is excited about him. This day and age of college football, I don't like where things are. I'm very outspoken about this, about transfer portal and NIL and what it's doing to, I think, the integrity of the game. But Fran has done a great job of getting kids in the portal, getting kids. Kyle McCord was obviously the big signing, getting a top-notch quarterback to come in and sort of create this excitement. He's done all those things. And I can tell you, being on the ground here in Syracuse, he's been doing the things that's gotten the community engaged and involved. He's got people on campus back excited about football again. But, where the rubber hits the road, as you all know, when September shows up, that's when it's going to matter.
Do you feel like that he's been able to, at least in the short amount of time you mentioned, getting people excited, start to help drum up the resources that clearly probably weren't going to football the way they needed to be over the years since, the last time that Syracuse was regularly competing for conference titles was just back when they were in the Big East.
Right. And this is where I get, I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I'm not a critic. I live in Syracuse now, so it's hard for me to say the things that I feel about college athletics because it sounds like I'm saying them about Syracuse. I just think where things are going right now, that there are going to be institutions like Syracuse that are going to have to make a decision. Do I want to go down the road of like Florida State was talking about private equity money to stay in this big business, to say we no longer care? By the way, I think that the transfer portal is worse than NIL. Because what transfer portal is doing to a lot of kids, you're promised two things. As you're going back to, you asked me about 1983, you're promised two things by any coach. You have the ability to compete, and you have the ability to get an education. Mm-hmm. And what NIL did was say, we don't care. NIL transfer says, we don't care if you get that education anymore. Make your few dollars, transfer school to school, bounce from school to school. Things that people don't ask. How many credits, all these young men who are transferring school to school, how many of their academic credits are transferring? And I can tell you it's a nightmare. Not every kid is going to transfer from school to school and have their academic credits transfer with them, because some schools don't take credits from another school. And are very stringent, and that becomes a very much a rule within the academic side of campus, whether or not they're going to accept credits. So there's a lot of problems to it. And I am of the thought when I think about a place like Syracuse, I think at some point you're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to be a part of whatever this new thing is? And I say new thing because you can't say you're a nonprofit academic institution and you're paying football players and coaches millions and millions of dollars, and you're doing TV deals on this side of the shop, and then saying, "Oh yeah, we're a nonprofit and academic institution, but some of our employees are making X amount of dollars, but they also happen to be athletes." The system is going to fall apart if we think we kid ourselves that that's going to continue to happen. And I think places like Syracuse need to make a decision. Do you want to be a part of that madness? Or do you want to go back to playing good quality football? And by the way, there's going to be plenty of people to play. I think there's schools like Boston College and Pitt and Rutgers who are going to be in that boat where, you ask about resources. Do they have hundreds of millions of dollars to be a part of this insanity that's becoming college football?
If you don't mind, a couple more questions. You mentioned the alums at Syracuse. You're one of them. You had a heck of a career. Donovan McNabb, but then, of course, Jim Brown, Floyd Little, Ernie Davis, Dwight Freeney, names like that. It's got an incredible yeah, there you go. And that doesn't include the journalism department or other entrepreneurs. How much pride is there? And is that still something that people remember and understand about Syracuse?
It's an excellent question because for me, and I'm a bit of I'm not a history wonk, but I love the institution. I love the history of the institution. And you mentioned John Mackey, and I can, go Larry Zonka. Mm-hmm. We had a black quarterback. At Syracuse before the position was called quarterback in 1938. We had a guy named Wilma Sadat Singh. And that story is an incredible story. We've had a black quarterback every decade except the 60s, since the 30s here at Syracuse. And so I love that history. I love that pride. And this is why I said a moment ago about what Nick Saban kind of echoed is we've gotten away from that. I love the old history. And I think when Penn State stopped playing Syracuse, you left a lot of money on the table. When all those old rivalries like the backyard brawl and all those great rivalries started going away, I'm glad they brought that back with West Virginia and Pitt. I'm a Northeast guy, so I know those rivalries really well. And when we got away from that, I think, one, we left money on the table, but two, we started to chip away at our alumni base who remembers those great rivalries. On the basketball side here at Syracuse, we love to hate Georgetown. I mean, that was our greatest. It was like, Georgia Tech, it's called good old fashioned hate. Well, that had nothing on Syracuse, Georgetown, right? I mean, your mother's a Hoya was like the charge that we used to say up here. I mean, it was amazing. And so when we got away from that, I think it really did hurt a lot of the alumni who said, all of our great traditions and all of our great fun started to go away. And so I do think that those of us who remember those games and remember those rivalries need to keep it alive. And I appreciate you kind of, stirring some of the names of our history and our past, because we have to keep those names alive.
Don, I don't even have so much of a question here, but I can't help but notice there's a lot of people we talk to on Zoom, and they've got various decorations and whatnot. That Davey O'Brien Award right behind your shoulder. That's
that. Little Fort Worth represented there.
Yeah, I know that's just a little slice of what you got in that 1987 season, but just how often do you maybe get stopped by Syracuse fans, or do you relive that? Or obviously you walk into your office there and you have some reminders, but how often do you reflect on that time period?
Not a lot, but I moved to Syracuse about a year ago, and the thing that I love more than anything else is I'm despite what you see behind me, I don't like live my football life in my everyday world, but right. I draw upon it for lessons that I learned, relationships and friendships and all that. But there's nothing I can say. There's nothing that brings me more joy than when I see someone or talk to someone here in Syracuse and they say, you know what, I used to go to games with my dad, or I used to go to games with my grandfather, or I was sitting in the stands when this happened. And when you're a part of, and I tell people all the time, since I moved back here, people say, why'd you move to Syracuse? And I was living, Long Island, where I'm from. And I stop and I pause and tell people it's because of the community. The school is one thing. I have my love for my alma mater. I love the football program and will support them till the day I die. But I was welcomed as a young person to this community. And my connections and my memories and my friendships are people in the community who we were a part of the community in so many ways. And so when I hear that from people who talk about their dads or going to games with their family, those are the things that mean the most to me.
Don McPherson, that 87 season, Craig brought up the trophy. Maxwell, O'Brien, the Unitas, Sammy Ball, all of these trophies, not to mention unanimous All-American and also eventually the College Football Hall of Fame. Love watching you play. The number 9 jersey that has been retired. Don, I'm glad I just happened to be reading something. It's donmcpherson.com, by the way, also online, but author, speaker, and what you do. Thank you so much for your time. We took more than I said we wanted, but we really enjoyed it. You're fantastic. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm always happy to talk with people about from Texas about football. Y'all do it the best.
Thank you very much. Don McPherson from Syracuse University and the masculinity of what young boys are told as far as like you throw like a girl. There's one of his books that he's written. He's really, really very, multi-talented in what he does.
Yeah, no, he's got a great life beyond football, as he said, and almost felt like kind of shallow. Like, how often do you think back to – but it's just because 1987, I was looking at that trophy. I couldn't help but see that.
It's right there.
Yeah, and that was obviously such an historic year. But, the work off the field's far more impressive. It's way more impressive. It's way more meaningful, and it's good to have people like Don McPherson involved and trying to – share his knowledge, share his passion, compassion, and just help make people better and make things in general better. So, I commend him for that and for using his platform in a positive way. And I think, too, a lot of stuff was interesting there, but his comments about just Syracuse in the future. And, I was going to ask him, like, what do you think about all the Florida State stuff and just kind of but they're not like an ACC original. They were, they're Big East. He's in the Big East. And so
I sometimes have to remind myself that they're not in the Big East because of that.
I think that's one of the bummer conferences that doesn't really for football for sure.
Right.
It was way better than people gave it credit for.
Right, and so West Virginia had their dalliance with that as well, and various others. But I do think there's going to come a time, probably if things continue on the path that they're on, that he alluded to, where schools are going to say, "What are we? Are we a university that plays football? Or are we a football team that also is backed by a university?"
It's located on a campus.
Yeah, and I think there's actually people out there who probably stand to benefit, because I think we all need to remind ourselves every story we read or every reaction we see, somebody's got an agenda, most likely, in a lot of this. But I do think you hear like, well, it's all going to become professionalized anyway. Not for everybody necessarily. And I think there'll be plenty of schools who have to, eventually make a type of a choice of like, what are we deep down and what are we going to be? And I don't know what that turns into ultimately, but I think it's good to recognize of like, oh yeah, we're still a school, and that's how all this started, and that's where it all stems from. And I don't know, I see stuff about like basically renting out like the logos and the name, but people don't even go to school. They play. It's just they're like renting the license, and I just find that to be like so just soulless.
It's depressing.
It's just soulless, and it's all just, I guess if you're obsessed with money and just your football team being good, that's all that matters to you. But I just feel like that's such a shallow way of being a fan.
There are fans that's all that matters.
I know.
And then
that's great.
I think a lot more, even some of the blue bloods, where they do care about where they are academically and where they rank.
And I do think when we get to the tiered system like that they talked about, like, there's going to be this one and that one, you're going to see some schools that might surprise you that go, you know what?
Yeah.
We're out of it. Yeah. We're just going to do it because it's not who we want to be, which is surprising.
We can still play football and still maybe do some good things, but
we're not going to
out of it.
We're not chasing Alabama anymore.
Yeah, that's what it is. And who knows? Maybe we don't ever really come to that point. I think we're as close to that as we've ever been before. But I do think if there came like a fork in the road, eventually some of these schools are going to have to say, all right, we're never going to compete with Alabama.
What are we, like running in quicksand.
Right. You could have done it in the 90s and the 2000s and part of the, I guess most of the 2010s. We saw schools that were successful, that were smaller, that didn't have all the backing because it was more of an even playing field because everybody had 85 scholarships and you weren't paying players, so nobody had an inherent advantage, although obviously there were bagmen and things like that going on, even for those schools. Let's not pretend like they aren't doing the same things, but when there comes a point where you're talking about like $50 million revenue gaps, I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, you can't ask your donors to make up for that or
one of the commercials I do, Craig, is Pioneer Steel and Pipe, how they survive the big box stores like Walmart and these monstrous places that come in that just overwhelm you and run you down. And wear you out.
I think there's more traditional tier or something along those lines. I don't know. You'd have to really flesh that out, but I do wonder if that's something that's not in the cards.
When we come back, Brett McMurphy, he's the one that had the quote on Scott Strickland, Florida AD on the FSU, at least that out there, and much more. Brett McMurphy, Action Network HQ. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. Central Texas Marketplace just off of I-35 in Waco. My journey to what eventually was surgery was really kind of kick-started because when my brother got so ill and got very sick, one of the things that my doctor suggested was get an MRI of my abdomen just to see what might be there that didn't need to be there. And luckily, that did come back clean. So did a full body scan. Eventually, it came down to a combination of what they call a Gleason report and a PSA, a blood level test. But that's where it started with Dr. Rob Maxey and his great staff at Ideal MRI. You know, you think about MRIs. You hear about all the time. We cover sports, MCL, ACL, rotator cuff, Tommy John, whatever, lower back issues. But it's a lot more than that to what they can find or not find inside of something that maybe they're concerned about inside of your body. $497 or less. It's been that way since the beginning. Located in the Central Texas Marketplace, it's a place where you find out evidence of what you need or your doctor wants to know about, and you save a ton of money at $497 or less at idealmri.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales@Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Man, I tell you what, talk about money. Go to reporting Brett McMurphy, Action HQ, Action Network HQ.com with us on 365 Sports. Sorry I had to spit that out. Brett, thank you very much. SEC meetings going on. There's been a lot of comments. I saw the one you posted about Scott Strickland and FSU. Anything in particular from today that jumped out at you?
Not really. The biggest talking points, if you will, all of the coaches are concerned about the roster size. That's been discussed. They don't want to see the roster numbers reduced. They haven't, established a number yet. They're still discussing that. How many would be scholarships? What's the role of the walk-ons, et cetera. And then obviously endless talk about settlements and those sort of things, which I won't delve into because no one knows what's going to happen. And that's, as Chris Del Conte said, that's still a year or two away. So when we figure it out, we'll figure it out. As one AD told me, when I asked him about it, he said, look, I don't care how the sausage is made. I just want to eat it.
Amen.
Yeah. Brett, last week when the settlement came down, I called a couple of SIDs to get some ADs on, and they're like, I think they're all kind of together. Like, yeah, we don't even know. Like, what do you want me to say? Refer to the statement, right? So let's get on to the other stuff in it. And in that, you mentioned the scholarship limits. Would football coaches be upset how upset would they be if it was 75 scholarships and 10 walk-ons, because they're not using, 85 scholarship players a year at all?
Yeah, and I talked to Mark Stoops of Kentucky, and he would not get into any specific numbers because he said, I don't want to put a number out there because then, we get pigeonholed into a number. But he basically said without, specific numbers that, he would not have an issue if he didn't have 85 on scholarship anymore, but then he would need, substantial number of walk-ons. So, it's obviously a give and take that the college football playoff expands. So there's, a handful of teams are going to play, a game or two more potentially. There's a number of factors going on. So, college football coaches, they want as much as they can get, and I understand why. They've made comparisons to the NFL, and some people have said, well, the NFL only has 53 players and, but then they're like, well, but when they lose somebody, they can sign somebody as a free agent, where you can't do that in the middle of the season for college. So a lot of back and forth going on, and I don't know how quickly we'll see any decisions made.
Brett, a tweet that you had from earlier today that gained a lot of traction was Scott Strickland talking about Florida's position regarding, Florida State, and if there was to be any interest between them and the SEC. It feels like, there's no right answer. He got panned by Florida fans for calling, our friends in Tallahassee. He got panned by Florida State fans because, of course, what's he going to say? But how did you take that from Scott Strickland? Just the diplomatic answer or something more to it?
A diplomatic answer. He basically, obviously everything he said is correct. They have one vote. There's it's got to take 12 out of 16 schools to vote to expand and, agree on a team. So, he's basically saying, without saying it directly, that if they did or did not want Florida State, they're only one of 16. So they can't bring him in and they can't keep him out. And obviously he said, when he was asked the questions, the first thing he said was, we like our friends in Tallahassee. And I literally interrupted him and I said, you didn't answer the question, because he was asked, what are your thoughts on Florida State as an SEC member? But, he did stress, look, there are no ongoing conversations. Florida State's still in the ACC. Personally, I think, this is not anything Scott has ever told me, but my, reading the room, if you will, and I think we've talked about this before, is, I don't think the SEC has any interest in Florida State or Clemson, because they already have schools in those two states. And they really don't, not that you need to expand the footprint, but you already have those markets. Why do you need to add more from that area? So I don't think they would want them. I think the unknown is, does the SEC want to allow the Big Ten, and more specifically, does ESPN want to allow Fox to get into the state of Florida? I think that's probably a bigger decision point than, whether Florida wants Florida State in or not. Does the SEC want the Big Ten to get into the state of Florida? Obviously, all the ramifications of recruiting and all those things. I think ultimately that will determine where Florida State ends up. But again, how soon can Florida State get out of the ACC? I was at Amelia Island a couple of weeks ago for the ACC meetings, and folks with the ACC made it very clear to me, they are not going to rush to allow Florida State to reach a settlement. They are going to, use a page out of the Dean Smith playbook, and that is run the four corners offense for youngsters that don't remember that, and basically stall. And if they ever when they do get to a point where a judge or the legal system determines they have to reach a settlement, then they'll do that. And then there will be a number, and Florida State will happily write that check. And Florida State right now is trying to reduce that number as low as it can and as quick as it can. But the ACC is not going to cooperate on that matter. And it's funny, both ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips and Michael Alford, Florida State's AD, said, we're both, working together to do what's best for the ACC. And, that's what we care about. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I could not confirm whether either one of them had their fingers crossed or not.
Well, if Florida State leaves, then, Brent, that opens that door up that we hear. Brett, it opens the door up for Utah, right? That bump.
Yeah. Dude, it's so, but this is how crazy. I mean, you guys know you're on the air every day. But it's like, so I see a report of, I don't even know where it started, but you see stuff on Twitter and, it's Utah and the ACC, and I'm like, okay, I ignore it. And then it's like, a little bit later, I see it again, and then I see it again, and I see it again. It's still not really anyone I'm like, oh, wow, okay, that's legit. But you keep seeing it over and over and over. And, so finally I reach out to Utah, and I'm like, look, I know this is something that's 100% bogus, but I keep seeing it. Is there a 1% chance there's any truth to this? And they basically said, can you put out a statement for us? I said, absolutely. And so they sent the statement out basically saying, this is ridiculous. This is absurd. All you got profanities, but that's just kind of where we're at now, where people just throw stuff out. And, people can have sources. Look, I can have a source, but that doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. I mean, I know certain sources are experts in different parts of college athletics, so I'm not going to go to somebody that knows nothing about realignment and say, hey, have you heard about anything about Utah? But apparently other people do. But that's the world we're in. People are trying to figure out what are the next moves for the ACC, because you're right. When Florida State and Clemson leave, and they will leave. They're not going to stay in this league forever. How is the ACC going to respond? And then also, what other schools are going to follow FSU and Clemson out the door? And, I've written before, the ACC's nightmare is it's going to be a conga line out the door. And I'm afraid it will be. I don't know how many that will end up being, but it will be a lot.
Do you mentioned the conga line? Is there just because the other conferences could get bloated enough to where they don't want to split the money, or they got to the point where they're happy with where they're at? Is there an ACC with 6 less teams in the future that can band together, or do you think that might be too optimistic?
You're saying the ACC would stick together with 6 fewer members?
Yeah, well, if there is that conga line, but is there enough of a chance that they could form something in the future?
That all the schools leaving the ACC?
No, the ones that would just be left behind that could keep it together.
Behind. Well, yeah, they can stay together. The issue is, you got to have somewhere to go. You can hey, pick me, but if the SEC and the Big Ten is only going to take so many, it's not like they're going to take everybody that leaves the ACC. So then you've got some schools, and obviously geography doesn't mean anything anymore in college athletics, but I think if there are, the North Carolina schools are out the door, the Virginia schools are out the door, Florida State, Clemson, potentially Miami, on down the road. I think for the Big 12, a lot of schools make sense geography-wise. Louisville, Pittsburgh, you have Pitt and West Virginia as a Big 12 game. That would be huge. Virginia Tech, I think, would be attractive to a number of leagues. So whatever schools are left after that, the issue is the ACC contract with ESPN. Reported this before. There is a stipulation in the contract that if the membership number dips below 15, that includes Notre Dame as a non-football member, that the ACC can renegotiate that contract. So that's why they went out and they got the 3 schools to get to 17, 18, including Notre Dame, because of their anticipating exits. So if they have there's a chance they could drop below 15, then certainly they would go and try to pull some more schools from some other conferences, most likely the American or somewhere, to get back to that number. Whether they can or not depends on how many schools they leave. Their biggest fear, of course, is they don't want to become the Pac-12. I don't think they would, because they're geography-wise, there's a lot more schools to reload from. The Pac-12 didn't have that option. But again, they know once Florida State and Clemson get out, whenever that date is, that their conference is weaker. They won't admit that publicly. You guys know this. Everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. The conference is weaker. You're losing your 2 biggest brands. Well, the Big 12 lost their 2 biggest brands, and they were able to survive. Will the ACC be able to do the same thing?
All right, I got to ask you this. There's so many different things that are outside of football, but it affects football. How much do you miss just talking about games, teams, etc.?
I miss it a great deal, dude. When you text, I'll tell people listening, I don't care. When you text me about coming on, I'm like, dude, I do not want to talk about the House settlement. I'm sick of it. I am totally sick of it, and I don't think the average fan cares about that. They want to know what's going to happen on the field. What's OU and Texas going to do in the SEC? What's the 4 new schools going to do in the Big 12? That's what people want care about. I think, at least. Maybe I'm too old school or too naive in this, but I don't think everybody cares about, getting down in the weeds about what's the settlement going to look like and all that stuff. So, yes, I miss it a great deal. And I was, just literally talking with Chris Del Conte a few minutes ago here at the SEC meetings. I said, what are you most excited about going to the SEC? And he looks at me like I'm from, Pluto or something. He's like, dude, the games, man, the games.
Yeah.
We got Georgia. We got, obviously we're bringing back our rivals, Arkansas, Texas A&M. We got Georgia. We got Kentucky. We got Florida. He goes, the games, man. I can't wait for the games. And he's right. And that's what, and I miss talking about that stuff instead of all the other stuff circling around. We call it college athletics. It's professional athletics played by people that sometimes attend schools at colleges.
Do you think, I don't know if you asked him this, do you feel like Del Conte is probably where Texas is now compared when the announcement was made 3 summers ago? Like maybe even surprised they're in as good a shape they are now compared to what it was like then?
I don't know if surprise is the right word, but he basically, was asked about some different financial things or whatever. And he's like, guys, we're Texas. We will figure it out. We're not, somebody said, are you concerned about dropping sports? He goes, we're Texas. We will figure it out. I'll look at 3 or 4 different scenarios on how we get things done. We will get things done. So I don't think he's necessarily surprised they're in this situation, but they're in a great situation. And I talked to Sark a little bit, the past couple of days, and I complimented him. I'm like, dude, you've done what nobody's been able to do at Texas since, Mac Brown got him to a national title game. And that is take advantage of all the recruiting advantages, take advantage of all the resources they have, and actually follow through and deliver, and get to the college football playoff. And I know some folks on the staff there, and this is not, I believe, and I'm an Oklahoma State alum. I'm not a Texas apologist. But I had somebody in their staff tell me the worst game they played last year was against Washington in the semifinal. Mm-hmm. And it still came down to the final minute with a chance to win that game and then play for the national title. And I don't think they're a 1-year wonder. I mean, obviously the degree of nothing against the Big 12, but I'll be first to admit it. The degree of difficulty for Texas and Oklahoma is, going to increase drastically. So we'll see how they respond. But certainly, Texas is in a much better position, like you mentioned, than they were, a few years ago. Now, can you maintain? Can you stay up at that level and compete, in the SEC, week in, week out?
Hey, man, great stuff. Again, I love you said this to me, too, about your daughter who's at UCF. You had told me that last summer, and they beat Oklahoma State last year. And what was the response you told her about Oklahoma State and that game and also the game that actually mattered?
Yeah, so actually before the season, when I looked at the schedule and I saw Oklahoma State played UCF the week after Bedlam, I told my wife and daughter, I said, Oklahoma State's going to lose this game. I don't care what happens in Bedlam. We're going to lose to UCF. So, of course, UCF, beats OSU, I think it was 100-2 or something. And so she's giving me a hard time. And I said, look, you guys can beat Oklahoma State for the next 100 years because it absolutely does not matter, because Oklahoma State won the last Bedlam, and you can put that on my tombstone because that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Congratulations on beating OSU. You can beat us for the next 100 years. But OSU won the last Bedlam. And I saw Joe Castiglione earlier today, and I said, Joe, you don't need to play Oklahoma State ever again in football because we won the last meeting. He kind of smiled and laughed.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate your stuff, man. Everything you do, great stuff. Brett McMurphy, SEC Meetings in Destin. Great college football writer, columnist, and also a journalist who joined us here just now on 365 Sports. And you do remember when that announcement, when it was the story was broken by Brett Zerneman about Texas and OU. At the time, you're like, man, because Texas had still not found itself. They have all the amenities, all the different, all the treasure chest, but they had not found the key to Pandora's box. And now you look
Pandora's
at it,
box is bad, but yes.
Okay. The treasure chest, as
yes,
I said.
Exactly.
They Shangri-La, whatever. And now you look where they are positioned in just a matter of 3 years and really 18 months or so. And, man, they do seem like they're set up. Now, I could be wrong. Well, we've talked about Oklahoma. It's the opposite now.
They finally hired the right head coach.
Yeah.
I think is very much that. I think the biggest factor, I think they hired the right head coach. More so than that, they hired the right athletic director who has then gone and made basically all-star hire after all-star hire. Like everybody they've hired is like a top 5 current head coach where they were all-time or whatever. I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure there's probably some people who take this wrong, but it's not, because I just listed out 2 reasons why they are where they are in general. But another reason I think you'd be foolish to not look at is NIL. who is better positioned than them?
Well, and they're doing it. They figured out the way to do it before everybody else. There's tons of schools that have maybe not as much money as Texas, but can compete with them that are just, throwing it down the toilet.
Right. And but they have endless amounts. So it's like they can't really screw up and like suffer all that much from it because, in years past, you have a bad head coach. He doesn't recruit well. You got the buyout. Like, you're not ever worried about a buyout if you're Texas, but you could get derailed as a program. Nowadays, you can go flip the roster in one offseason.
When I've said that, but no, go ahead, finish it.
And so I just think that everything's just cooking at the right time for them. And it's been a matter of just NIL and the right head coaching hires and the right conference and the right just everything that's hitting all at one time for them. And so it's been a perfect storm, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And then you have the SEC invitation, and I mean it's all come together almost like the way you would have designed it if you were Texas.
There are some Texas fans, and I know that Paxton and others on the board, UT Parking, et cetera, and I hope I'm Cuarte, that even though they were able to do pretty well early on in NIL, that a lot of the guys that helped them have success that built what was last year was not NIL. Although, again, Quinn Ewers, among others.
Right,
but
that's why I hesitate to even bring up NIL because then it gets derailed.
I brought it up because there's some but they did get it. That did give them a nice little jump start on top of what they were already trying to do.
Well, it puts them in a position where they have really no peers, is what I'm saying.
No question.
They have all of the other things already. They've always had that. What's different? They've hired the right coaches. They've got the right athletic director. That's where it starts. But then what sets them apart is they've got more ammunition than anybody. And so you have the right coaches in place. You're recruiting really well. And then wherever you need to fill in or exceed expectations or take it to a different level, you're also capable of doing that like that. You don't have to go huge fun. Like you have all of the weapons in your arsenal all coming together at the perfect time with the perfect conference to go land in and take it to an even different level. So, I'll just refer to it as a perfect storm because it's not just one thing or the other. It's been a multitude of things.
But you
and
have
that does
the
start
right
with Chris Del
person
Conte
running the ship.
Yeah.
You've got the guy with a vision.
Yeah, and Chris Del Conte hired a guy with a vision. He had a vision of his own, and then he hired a football coach who everybody knew had a lot of potential, but he had personal problems, and Steve Sarkisian got beyond those, and now he's able to be the head coach that so many people thought he could end up being with the right place, the right time, and it's working wonders. It's working really well for them. So, they're in a great spot, and, I know Oklahoma kind of gets poo-pooed on. They've got a lot of money, too. They've still got some to be determined on some of, a hire like Brent Venables. I don't think we quite all the way know just yet, but I do think when they enter the SEC, whereas in years past you could say, well, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it doesn't matter. Oklahoma's always been relevant, but this is a different era. And that's why I circle back to with the NIL thing is that can set you apart. And I do think that's where it is a different era than just like, oh, well, we've always been competitive. Yeah, but the rules are different now. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that's as much of just a guarantee that you just slide in and you remain competitive because you've always been competitive. I think there's some nuance to it that Texas has clearly hit on. And the hires are the biggest thing, starting with Del Conte, that they've really been super effective at, and it's blossomed from there.
Well, they went from an athletic director who was trying to
turn it into a pro sports franchise, whatever he's trying to do.
The Diamondbacks to Steve Patterson, who had, the Chip Brown story on that about him walking in and telling somebody he's about to ask for $5 million. Look, I got 10 minutes. Like, no. If you want $5 million, you've got as long as I get to get the $5 million. And then they had kind of an interim athletic director for a while, which puts you in limbo because you don't really.
They had an issue between the spine we've discussed before, president. Even the board, the president board, whatever, AD and football coach, and it was all like you had to go to a chiropractor to fix it.
Yeah, and they had presidents changing and all that's all going to happen. But when you have an athletic director that's interim for more than a year, it's bad. And they had that for a while between Steve Patterson and Chris Del Conte. And then once they got Chris Del Conte, who's a career athletic director in, who was, clearly his career at TCU is on the way up, it's the best decision they made, because then he's turned around and whipped a lot of things into shape.
Yeah, and in an era where you can then, you don't have any limitations, I guess is what I was trying to get at. You can just flex your full muscle more than ever before. Who's better primed to do that than them? And they've been doing it, and it's been obviously very effective, and we'll see where that takes them. But they're knocking on the door or outright winning in a lot of sports right now. So it's a great time for them, and I do think there's still a lot of confidence about Oklahoma, but they are not quite as just strong top to bottom. I feel like they've got a great AD. They've got some really good coaches in certain sports, but I think the big question is in football.
Because that's the one that matters.
And look, Brent Venables probably doesn't get enough credit for having a pretty okay year. Like, they beat Texas. They weren't it's not like they won 7 games or something.
Yeah.
Like, they had a good year. But for that standard, it's just so high. So, we'll see. And then men's basketball, there's clearly some questions right now about where that direction is headed, and those are your top 2 sports. So there's reason to be more concerned with them, but also enough there to say, you still believe they're going to be fine. It's just that there's a little bit of a different level they're both entering in on right now.
They are, and it's almost opposite of what it was when the announcement came in the summer of 2021. When we come back, we'll hear from Chuck Cooperstein, Broadcast Hall of Famer. Mavericks last night lost at home in Game 4 to Minnesota. We'll discuss that, but also his thoughts on the Negro League stats being merged with, a lot of them, merged with Major League Baseball and a few other stories. He loves college football. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. I was there. Maybe it was on Friday. Went by there. I didn't see Brian Bauer, but, man, that place was packed because Memorial Day weekend was coming up. And, of course, the Memorial Day on Monday. And, of course, you always remember exactly what the meaning is there. But they had their butcher shop loaded up, from seafood to sausage and pork and poultry. And then, of course, on top of that, they had all the steaks you'd ever want. And on top of that, even if you wanted hamburgers to cook on Memorial Day, they had that too. Plus the crawfish. There were people walking in the door that afternoon to come pick up the live crawfish bags, 30-pound sacks that you could order. What is it? Today is Wednesday. You have an hour and a half to order live crawfish, 30-pound sacks before 6 today. Pick them up after 4 on Friday or on Saturday when they are open. They also have the corn on the cob, and they have the sausage, they have the seasoning. They have what you need for a crawfish boil. It is there. Red potatoes, they have that too. The butcher and bakery were full throttle, believe me. Cold drinks, cold wine, cold beer, if you want that too. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund Fund. BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Hall of Fame broadcaster, and if you didn't hear the call, the Lucas shot that won, I think it was game 2 with Coop on the radio. It was phenomenal, everything he does. Hall of Famer joins us with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak, 365 Sports. Did the door crack back open last night for Minnesota, or was that just a blip on the radar?
First off, I wish I was a Hall of Famer. I'm not, but thank you. Look, this series is really competitive. I think both teams have reason to believe that the series should be over, that they should have swept. Obviously, the Mavericks by actually winning, the first 3 games of the series, but Minnesota obviously was there in all 3 games. And, last night was a night where Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards had their moment in the final 5 minutes of the game. They made shots, and Luka and Kyrie did not make shots. And really, that is what this series has been about. The Maverick Stars have been better than the Timberwolves Stars in 3 out of the 4 games, and that's why the series is 3-1.
Kyrie and Luka, I mean, through the season, you could see it, Chuck, the better and better and better. What do you think is it just that playoff excitement juice that really has transformed them into one of the best duos in the league now, and their playoffs have been as fun to watch as anything together for 2 guards I can even remember?
Well, I don't think it's the playoffs per se. I mean, everybody's awareness is heightened because of the playoffs, but they were great all year. I mean, they're one of 3 tandems ever to average 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. So, they were doing it all year. The fact that Kyrie missed a lot of games. Now he missed 24 games, and maybe he's a little fresher than a lot of other guys around the league, and it's kind of played its way out in the playoffs. But there have been some phenomenal games from Kyrie, and then there have been some average ones. There were several of them in the Oklahoma City series. This was the first one in the Minnesota series, but he's been terrific. But he had a bad game last night and had some bad decisions. The late pass that they tried to throw off the floor left-handed. Cross court that Kyle Anderson intercepted. It was a terrible play. But, I think you just got to chalk it up to one night that neither one of them really played great. Even, when Luka's not playing great, is 28 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists, which is just mind-blowing to even think of. But, the one thing about this team, as seemingly is the case with our Dallas-Fort Worth teams of late, they're phenomenal on the road. The Rangers won all their road games. They were 11-0. The Stars are 6-1 going into their game tonight against Edmonton. And, the Mavericks are 6-2 on the road. So, I don't think they'll be intimidated going into Minnesota. I think they know that, the game was there for the taking last night, even though they didn't play really well. But if they do somehow manage to play their game, and if, history repeats itself the way it has in the first 2 series, where, the Mavericks won games 2 and 3. They lost games 4, and they won both Game 5s against the Clippers and Oklahoma City, and did so pretty convincingly. That Ernie Johnson will be talking to Jason Kidd and Luka tomorrow night on the floor in the Target Center.
God willing, Chuck. Hopefully that is the case. How much do you feel like they missed Derek Lively last night?
Oh, they missed him a lot. Look, and they missed him. He went out early in Game 3. I mean, he left with, 8:35 left in the second quarter. Yeah. And if you look at the points in the paint, they've gone down in every game in the series. The Mavericks had 62 in Game 1, 54 in Game 2, 40 in Game 3, 36 in Game 4. And I'm sure Lively's in the game, and he got off to a great start when he got hurt. That those numbers would certainly look better. I'll also say that I think the Mavericks passed up, and Luka in particular passed up several what I believe to be easy opportunities at the rim, instead trying to pass it out to hit the home run. I think the analogy would be there's nothing wrong with hitting doubles. You don't always have to go and try to hit the home run. And the line that I always like to use is 3 is better than 2. And 2 is better than none. The Mavericks weren't necessarily on fire shooting threes last night. They had open chances to take 2s and take those baskets. And, Minnesota's a really good defensive team. So anytime you have a chance to get a really high percentage shot at the rim, I really think you're almost obligated to take it. And I don't think we did that nearly enough last night.
I know that when we see a good young star coming up through the system or a league or whatever, we like to compare him. How would you look at Edwards, and who does he remind you of, if anybody?
Well, I know, obviously, look, the comparisons have been to Jordan. He's a little smaller than Jordan. Jordan was a legit 6'6". Edwards is probably like 6'4.5", if that. They're built the same way. They both, at least here early in their careers, are far more effective shooting in the mid-range than they are shooting threes, although I don't doubt for a second that if Michael Jordan was playing today and they told him he had to shoot threes, he wouldn't be a 32% three-point shooter like he was in his career. But he's got to take over the game mindset, and he can pass it, he can shoot it. He's a very good rebounder for his size. He's a volume shooter right now. And I think he'll learn to be a more efficient shooter as time goes on. But he's really good. And, he really did put his stamp on the game last night. There were a couple of huge baskets that he made. One of them pretty wild shot going right to left into the lane with the shot clock going off, and, banked it in, and then, hits the big one with 38 seconds to go that puts him up 5 and pretty much ends the game.
Do you think the Mavs will be at full strength with Kleber back now and maybe Derek Lively back for game 5, or do you think they'll hold Lively out a little bit longer?
Well, he's listed as questionable, and I will only say that in the Mavericks world this year, when players have been listed as questionable, it almost always means they're playing. Not 100%. But it almost always has meant that person will wind up playing. So he'll go through shoot around tomorrow, and we'll see see if he does everything there. And but right now, seeing that designation, I would expect him to play, and that takes a lot of pressure off of Kleber, who will play. But you could tell last night that he did not really want to get involved with any contact. Wasn't really looking for his shot at all. He passed up several opportunities to shoot, even though, he had shot well in the playoffs before his injury. But you do want him for defense and for the versatility that he can give Jason Kidd as far as being able to play him with those two bigs, with either one of those two bigs. It becomes really important to do that, especially if you want to try to match up with the Minnesota threesome of Towns, Gobert, and Naz Reid.
Chuck, yesterday's news about the Negro Leagues and some of the stats that Josh Gibson, among others, Willie Mays picked up like an extra 10 hits in his career. Your thoughts about the integration, if that's the right word to use here, of the Negro League's historical stats that have been checked and checked and checked over years, and now that is being a part of baseball's history. Your thoughts, and do you like it?
I think I do like it. Look, the NFL absorbed the AFL stats, from the 60s. And, Joe Namath's 4,007 yards is the first 4,000 yard passing season in NFL history. And he did it in the AFL in 1967. So, I mean, it happened, and it happened in professional football. I don't necessarily like the idea. The NBA has not done it as it relates to the ABA. You can look on Basketball Reference and you can see the breakdowns and whatnot. But I do wish the NBA would accept what the ABA did, for the 9 years that the ABA was in existence. But I think this is good. It tells the entire history of baseball. And, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I just barely saw the story this afternoon while I was working on some other stuff. But I'll just have to delve into that at some point, see what it all means,
There are some stats from Gibson, the home runs, right, Paul?
There's barnstorming.
Barnstorming, games like that. They've been able to pick and choose like a needle in the haystack that some of those numbers are not going to work. So he's not the all-time home runs leader, but he is now the single-season batting average all-time leader.
The career batting average leader, too,
OPS, things like that. I think that's just baseball statistics and records, don't you think, are the ones that, to this day and age, no matter how the game has changed or not, are still the ones that are, as you and I about the same age growing up, that were so easy to remember and we just fantasized about them?
Yes. I mean, we care about, we care about 500 home runs. And we care about 300 wins. And, even compared to football, football's 1,000-yard season has been completely marginalized by the expansion of games. So, what Jim Brown did in rushing for 1,863 yards in 1963 in a 12-game season, I mean, it's now they're playing 17 games to try to get there. And so it's an entirely different game. Although, you think about it, in today's game, running backs aren't getting the chance to get to 1,800 yards because everybody's throwing the ball. So if somebody did get to 1,800 yards, maybe it would be pretty significant. But baseball is the one. Look, you're playing, whether it's 154, 162 games. I mean, it's still a large enough sample by and even with the expansion of games. The percentage is so little that it doesn't materially affect how you feel about that particular person and what he was able to achieve.
Chuck, earlier at SEC Media Day, Scott Strickland was asked a few questions, and one of those was about Florida State. And I know right now everybody expects the ACC's demise. It's just a matter of in a few months or in a few years, depending on what the courts say. And the odds do favor it. It appears that they would be a Big Ten lean. But you as a Florida fan, would you want to see Florida State in the SEC if that was a possibility, or are you opposed to that?
I've got no problem with it. I mean, and they're playing them anyway. Right. So, hey, let it be a conference game and let them be able to schedule a better non-conference game. Or a different I don't know if it would be a better non-conference game because Florida State's really good, right. but schedule a different non-conference game, and so that Florida can travel and that the people can travel to Gainesville to play. So I'd be very much in favor of it. But look, the whole college scene right now is, I mean, mess is way inadequate a word to describe what's going on there, and nobody knows how ultimately it's going to shake out. But I think Greg Sankey I think he's a pretty intelligent guy. And I think if he thinks that Florida State is good for his league, that he will convince the powers that be at the presidential level, the chancellor level, that it's time to make that move.
Hey, sometimes do you pinch yourself for what you get to do? You work your ass off. You're really good at what you do. You're a great sports fan. Do you times pinch yourself still to this day that you get to do what you do?
Every day.
And
let's look at it. Yeah. Let's look at it this way, David. There are 8 billion people on Earth. There are 30 people who do what I do as a radio play-by-play guy in the NBA. There are 30 people in the entire world who do that. And if that doesn't put it into proper perspective, I don't know what can or will. So yes, I know how incredibly fortunate I am to be in this role, and frankly, in the role I'm in with this team. because for 19 years, I had Dirk Nowitzki for 14 years. I had an overlap with Dirk and Luka, and now I have Luka, who, if he's not the best player in the NBA, you don't have to call roll very, very long before you get to his name. So I know how lucky I am. I know how fortunate I am, and I know that every night I go into the building, what I saw at the end of Game 2 is more than just a possibility, and it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad that you phrased that the way you did, because you said you're one of 30, NBA announcers, but you're one of 2 or 3 guys who can say they're watching arguably the greatest player in the world on a nightly basis. Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very short list as well. What a time in DFW right now, Chuck, right? I mean, there's some finishing that needs to be done by the Stars and the Mavericks, but my goodness, if they can somehow finish, then it's an all-timer of a year for the Metroplex.
Well, and, look, even if those teams, the Stars and Mavericks, are not able to win the championship, but they do get to the finals, that would be enough of a remarkable accomplishment. It would just be the cherry on top of the most incredibly delicious sundae in the history of mankind if they were able to both complete the deal and join the Rangers and have 3 champions, really within an 8-month period. I mean, I don't know if that's ever been done. I certainly know it's not been done in the modern era. Maybe back in the old days, maybe back, when the NHL was first formed, and you'd have to go back to 1946 to find the NBA. So I haven't done the research on that, but man, I can't imagine, 3, a baseball, a basketball, and a hockey champ in 8 months. And hey, there's always hope for the football team too. And the football team has been good. I mean, they just have been bad at the wrong time. And it's just been really unfortunate.
Well, you brought them up, and I know we got to let you go, but does Jerry even notice what the others are doing? I mean, it's got to bother him, even though as popular as he is printing the money and what he did early on in his career. How much do you think this lights him up a little bit?
Well, listen, he wants to be top of mind, and even the Cowboys OTA, which normally would draw tons of local media out there. I know they had their share, especially when Dak talked, because the Cowboys quarterback talks, media is going to be there. But this is something when you get on a run like this, like what the Mavericks and Stars are on. It's every day for 2 months.
Yep.
And there are games that are involved, which make it all the more fun as opposed to football, which, you're just doing once a week. So yeah, I'm sure on some level, Jerry's probably wondering, man, why can't this be us? Why haven't we been able to get to at least, a conference championship game or anything like that? But in the end, it's still a Cowboys town. And when training camp starts at the end of July and whatever, all the attention is going to be on them.
Chuck, you are a Hall of Famer, man. We appreciate your time. Anytime we can get you on the show. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you guys having me as always.
Chuck
Thanks a lot.
Cooperstein, voice of the Mavericks. His call of the Game 2 finish, down 2. Luka jumps back, steps back, hits the 3, wins the game. The dagger for Minnesota, that's going to be hard for them to overcome, despite the door being cracked open a little bit last night.
I thought last night, had they gotten Karl Anthony Towns at 6th foul a little bit earlier, they might have had a much more reasonable chance of clawing back in and getting it. But
they weren't going to.
But
I got something stuck in my. They're not going to call that 6th foul on him.
Well, they did eventually. When Luka's the one who, smartly drew it. But, yeah, Anthony Edwards last night, especially towards the end of the game, was not going to miss.
He's fun.
Yeah.
He's really fun to watch, know.
I didn't expect them to sweep. I think if Lively played last night, they do, though.
Yeah.
I think that they really missed him. He's just such a difference maker. What a hell of a rookie he has become. And, Chuck, I'm glad he said that the way he said. I mean, he's watching maybe the greatest player on earth, and at worst, he's the 2nd or 3rd best player on earth. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very short list right now, and I know Luka's style. Plenty of people, I don't even like when he complains the way that to the level that he does, but just pure basketball standpoint, he's special. I mean, on a level that's just.
And he's a huge man.
Right.
I mean, he's got the nimbleness of a regular point guard, and yet he's a big dude that can play the way he does.
Yeah, he's a huge guy and just super athletic for his size, and just incredible to watch what he can do with the basketball and how he can create for other people. And yeah, I mean, not only missing Lively last night, but Kyrie.
He was off.
Yeah, he was bad, and he's had a weird postseason where he's had some incredible moments and incredible runs, but there's also times where he just sort of disappears when it comes to scoring, and it's just been kind of odd how he becomes fourth quarter Kyrie, but like I just feel like you can't do that all the time. You can't always like have a so-so first half and then just turn it on late all the time. He's pretty much done that, but you can't do that every night, right? And so, yeah, he had a bad night overall, and that certainly aided in that loss. And just give Minnesota credit, first and foremost. I mean, they're a really good team, and they got really talented players too. So hopefully the Mavs can take this out in 5 and just let me have a nice, relaxing weekend rather than you win the next one, all of a sudden it's like, all right, now it's 3-2. And now
Minnesota's won in Dallas.
Yeah, you're switching,
One of the things that happened last night, I think, in the series compared to the first 3 games is that they were able to, Minnesota, make plays in the last 3 minutes, which they had not been doing in the first 3 games. They were in every game, but they couldn't get that key shot or they couldn't get the key stop, and they did that. And so you have a team that has not won much who all of a sudden now can relate back to that, because when they beat Denver, even when Denver won and when Minnesota won, they were all blowout games. They were like, none of them were close. And then so that might have been, who knows, and then again it could be a 20-point Dallas win in Minnesota Game 5, and they move on to play the Celtics.
Yeah, thinking with the Celtics, I mean, you got the Kyrie Boston thing, which would be insane.
Porzingis Dallas
which
thing.
That was not nearly though. That was nothing like bad blood, but yeah, it was a thing, and like
it just
they
didn't
clearly
work out.
Yeah, they clearly moved on. He didn't work with Luka, and they were at different. That was also. They were both much younger at that point. But anyways, it's been fun. It's been an incredible year for Dallas sports fans. If you're somebody who roots for all of those teams, you got the Stars knocking on the door of the finals. The Rangers won the World Series for the first time ever. The Mavs with this team, I mean, it would be incredibly special anytime you win a championship. But I just think the Kyrie Luka component would make that so cool. And, yeah, and then there's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Who have been very good.
They're good.
Yeah.
And they're quality, but they just have this force field.
They pick the same day to have their worst day, and it's
annually.
It's
like you with Halloween.
The second round of the playoffs.
This is the time. Well, the second round of the playoffs is when they're going to go, and they're going to get
whether they get a bye or not.
Yeah,
right.
Second round of the playoffs.
It's the ceiling.
They're going to go, and they're just going to have this is the worst day. And somehow there's going to be something weird around it. Like, it can't just be a bad day. They're going to go to Cabo, or somebody's mad about their contract, or
the hold is weird, and Tony Romo's got to take off running with it.
That started it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of did, I guess.
They're knocking on the door, yet why can't one of the teams they play have a bad day too?
Yeah.
It's them.
Knock on the door long enough, eventually that'll happen. But it's just a matter of like,
right.
when you do it for like 20 years, you're just like, all right, enough already.
They
but
ended Tom Brady's career.
Yeah.
Then they went out and just got shredded.
Yeah.
They
we shouldn't be talking about them. They don't deserve it.
Hey, no. Look, or they make Jordan Love look like the next superstar. And he might be.
I got to tell you something. That day, sat down to watch it, thinking that they'd probably win 30-17, and still to this day, mesmerized by how Green Bay just riddled them and how Jordan Love looked like another guy that had been a quarterback there before.
And then you find like Micah Parsons goes on he's on podcast with Jordan Love and asked them, like, Jordan straight up and down, like, hey, how did you guys do that? Well, you had a safety playing linebacker. And like, he's like, that's it? Like, I mean, pretty much, yeah.
Well, a lot of the big chunk plays.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm waiting for Michael Parsons to announce he's going to be on the Amazing Race with all like I've seen him doing sumo and boxing, and I mean,
he would kill it on that show.
I'm sure he probably would be great. He would be great.
I'm a huge fan of that show. He would kill it.
Yeah, but I did want to make this transition because you're talking about Jordan Love. There's news about another guy named Love in the college basketball ranks.
Oh, the kid that used to be at North Carolina, right?
No, Arizona's Caleb Love.
He used to be in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying it was just in North Carolina. No, Caleb Love announcing that he is going to withdraw from the NBA draft and will be returning to Tucson next season. So obviously that's Big 12 related now.
And him and Trey Townsend both withdrew from the draft, and they're both there now. That's going to be.
Was it Tommy Lloyd, their head coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be. They're loaded. They're good anyway.
They're going to be good regardless.
And now
but
another Big 12 team just got better by just waiting for the calendar to flip days. We need to come back. Steve Uryas, he's the AD.
Kim Coulter, thanks for the super chat, by the way. The noise you heard when we had the guest on, that's the new super chat noise.
Okay.
We have a super chat noise.
I thought
nice.
Brett McMurphy had some kind of weird alarm going off. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. Kim's home course, by the way, in the Scottsdale area, is hosting the U.S. Amateur, I think he said, coming up this weekend or soon. 73-plus hundred yards of Augusta-like beauty on the greens, and the rough is thick and nasty. Thank you, Kim. All right, when we come back, Steve Uryas, he's the AD at Tarleton State. They had a hell of a baseball team, had a heck of a football team, but because of the way things are during their transition, not elected or eligible to be a part of the postseason. We'll ask him about that. And then what is a school about the size of Tarleton State that's trying to grow? What do they think about all these moving parts? At around 5:25 or so, we'll look at the Big Ten running backs. We've been going through that since last week. The Big Ten top 10 running backs, pretty good. Really good list there. And Paul's top 5. This is 365 Sports. Jeep has two of the best-selling plug-in hybrid vehicles on the market today, the 2023 Grand Cherokee Overland 4xe and the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe will give you the thrill of your life coupled with luxury. Quickness you will experience in all-electric mode to the versatility in the hybrid mode. It's one of the most complete, versatile, and sexy vehicles on the market today, and for a limited time at Allen Samuels, you can get the Grand Cherokee Overland 4xe on an ultra-low mileage lease, $746 a month with $3,500 total out of pocket at signing. MSRP is $71,265 with 39 payments, which is $746 a month. It's a remarkable deal. How about that 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon ultra low mileage lease, $763 a month with total out of pocket of $3,500 at closing, also for 39 months. MSRP is $69,665. Approved credit, must finance through Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Hurry by their location today in Waco for the Memorial Day sales event. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We're waiting on Steve Uryas, the AD at Tarleton State. We had him on back when they were eligible to be a part of the postseason in football, but the transition, like it hit Sam Houston State, 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't eligible, even though were really, really good. And now baseball is hit with the same thing. Craig, you were going to put something out there? Steve, go ahead.
No, I'll wait. We can do it later on.
Steve Uryas is the AD at Tarleton. Nope. Oh, you don't have it.
Yeah, I called him 3 times.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, that's ding, ding, ding. He's gone.
Yeah.
I'll text him.
Thought Paul was talking to get him on the airways.
No.
So if we need something to just fill a little bit of time here, I was going to make mention of rounding back to uniform talk.
Yeah.
Baylor putting out yesterday, we had this whole long segment talking about their unveiling of their updated uniforms, their new uniforms, however you want to refer to them. Hit or miss, depending on where you looked. In the end, I like them. I wasn't expecting for them to like go old school Bryles teams. I don't think we'll ever see that return. And I wasn't expecting them to do like a brand new, like unrecognizable from what you've been seeing the last 5 years. So I liked them. I thought they were a nice update. I also see how repetitive the design from Nike is, because you can see it in Iowa State's design and you can see it with various other teams. And so Nike's getting a little bit lazy, I think, with their designs. But I did want to also add, though, that we knew there was a 4th uniform, and it looks like they're going to be unveiling that tomorrow.
Oh, because someone tried to unveil it like as if it was they found.
Well, not just that,
looks like
but
it's a photo shoot.
I think what happened was they got the reception that they did, and I think that they debuted the new uniform, like the real new uniform, the real new color uniform, that dark gray or black or whatever it's going to be, I think we all tend to believe it's going to be like an anthracite type of color based on what we've heard. But whatever it's going to be, it seemed like, okay, you didn't unveil this yesterday. I guess you're going to wait till the season and you're going to drop it like TCU week and like, here's our new uniforms and do something big with it. But I think because of the response they got, they're like, we should go ahead and put these out right now and try to add some excitement to it. So tomorrow morning they're gonna unveil those. But yeah, somebody took somebody else's Photoshop and then it's like one of these numerous college football accounts, and they passed it off as like, these are the uniforms, and it was just a picture that was of a different one with like a black paint job, like, and that's not what it is if you see that rolling around. But it's going to probably be something similar to that. So we'll see those tomorrow morning.
You said hit and miss. I think you could say the answers or the responses were hot and cold. I saw some that were positive. Yeah, I saw a lot of them that were like, okay, and some disappointed, and you know, and so perhaps the release, if it is tomorrow, might be one of those. Oh, hell yeah! And
maybe.
And I don't know if you. I don't know. I don't know.
There might be some people who are still like, oh, they still suck or something. I don't, you know.
I saw some national responses.
There will definitely be some people who just don't like them regardless because they just don't like them or because they just don't want to like them. But
they don't want to admit that it's
right.
Nice. They're miserable.
There are some of those people for sure. But I do think we're going to see that tomorrow unveiled because of just kind of the way But that's just so Baylor to just like botch a uniform reveal in a way to where it's like not a big fun thing. It's like another, you know, just very contentious type of a thing, and it's supposed to be fun. So hopefully tomorrow is fun. Is all I'm saying.
I saw a donor today. I've been walking in the morning. I saw a donor today. When I went into the gym to shower, and you know what? She said, I just want them. I don't care what they wear. Win.
Just win.
Yeah. I mean, she said, I'll take 1965. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Just win. We're now joined by Steve Uryas. He is the AD at Tarleton State. We've had him on before to discuss Tarleton State and kind of the catch-22 of the transition to what they're doing to FBS. And then baseball caught up in the same web, too. Steve, thanks for your time with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. How frustrating is it? You're really good, and you kind of can't do something about it when it comes to the postseason.
You know, it's amazing. We had a great run this year and proud of our team. Yeah, it's frustrating, but we also knew what we were getting into when we signed up for this 4 years ago. We put in the waiver. Quite honestly, we met with our team on Sunday and said, hey, we're doing everything we can to get in. Hopefully they'll look at it, but history tells us they really don't. And so we're ready to move on, ready to go on to the next season and be in that position again pretty quickly. But think about this. We're the first program by a D1 reclassifying institution to win the conference tournament. So it gives us really something to build on.
Good. That's great news.
You mentioned building on that. What do you think allowed – I mean, like there's all this talk about talent cap and all those things when you move up. How were you guys able to close that before you even got there?
It's interesting. I actually met with the team when they came back in town, and it's really. So I have been to the College World Series with two different institutions in Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. We have a gritty group of kids here in Stephenville that were not looked at by and large by Power 5 institutions that want to play. And we've got a gritty group of coaches. And Fuller Smith is an amazing coach. First year to be able to do this, really proud of that. And our kids are committed to building the program. We don't have all the things that everybody else has, but what we do have is people that want to work hard and try to compete at the highest level.
So, Paul was asked, how'd you close the gap even before you got there? And you find guys that have a chip on their shoulder. That's what you can do, but they're also talented. You can't just win with a chip, also have to have some talent. What are your thoughts as you are about to make this official entry, and now you see a starship even going higher in the sky to try to separate from Earth in athletics?
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is that you find yourself in a situation where you're coming out of an amazing year. I had a discussion with Coach really yesterday, and he said it's great the number of kids that now want to come to Tarleton, that have interest in Tarleton, that didn't have it before, that see what we're doing. You guys see what we're doing facility-wise out here, campus-wide, over a $500 million worth of new facilities going in, and there's been an investment. There's an investment in our student athletes and our coaches, and I do believe that we'll be able to build on this season and recruit kids at the highest level that can come here. And it's about people, and it's about the people of Stephenville. It's about our coaches. It's about our staff, and that's what makes it fun.
How open and adaptive do you have to be, given that you guys are now just moving up to this level and that the whole world changes seemingly every day? Do you just kind of have to ride the wave, or what is your strategy for trying to ford the waters of this crazy river?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question now. I'm sorry I was late. I was on a WAC call, which we were talking about future scheduling in all of our sports in light of the departure of Stephen F. Austin. And you have to ride the wave. Before, guys, there was stability in conferences. There was stability at institutions. None of that exists anymore. And that is unfortunate, because I think we've departed from the fundamental purpose of college athletics, but that's where we are. So we have to be incredibly fluid, moving month to month, year to year with what we're doing. Obviously you've got a massive settlement that came down. What is the impact? We don't know what that impact is, but we're going to have to know that number pretty soon so that we can make decisions on what can and can we not do moving forward. But it does change. We were laughing the other day, people that have been in the business for a long time. They said, do you remember when you had your summers off? You remember this and that and whatever? Well, none of that exists anymore. But that's where we are. So if we don't adapt, then we're going to get left behind. We're adapting.
Well, I have to ask you this, because I've reached out to my people I know, including Kyle Keller, who's a great friend of mine, the men's basketball coach at SFA. But I haven't heard back from him, and it's not been that long. Why are they leaving? Did they? I don't know if they have to tell you why, because I'm a proud SFA alum. I'm also. Yeah. It seems like this has become kind of hit and miss. Southland, et cetera, then WAC. Did they say why they were leaving?
I don't know that we ever got an official reason, and no one has ever really said anything to me. I've always been of the theory that a lot of times people think the grass is always greener until you really get there, and that's the unfortunate. So, and I'll just say this. I think if you go back and look at, I'm a Nebraska alum, and I love the University of Nebraska, but the truth of it is, how relevant have they been in the Big Ten since leaving the Big 12?
I can answer you that because I was born in Omaha, and I'm a lifelong Nebraska fan, so I can tell you not in a long, long time.
Yeah, and that's not a pot shot. That's just statistical. And I think the reality of it is you've got to really say to yourself, where do we want to be? Where can we compete? And what is the right thing to do? And their reason for leaving, I don't know. I know Kyle well. I actually, when I was at Oklahoma State, his father was the Board of Regents chair.
Oh, yeah, and he was there with under Eddie Sutton, correct?
Yep. But it's interesting times, guys, but we're really in a good position here. Excited. As you know, we've got a week 0 football game. We're going to kick off the season on the 24th of August.
Yeah.
On national TV. Not on ESPN Plus, but on a linear network. So excited about the exposure we're going to get there and showing off the Stephenville and Tarleton State.
So you also have a game in Waco. We discussed that with you before. How much will that week before game, how much does that help?
I do think it helps. It gives you an extra week that you can bring your players in for camp. It helps with the, acclimating them. It's obviously it's hot, but it does help. And, where I was before, we had tried to get a week 0 game for that very reason, because the goal was to play a game before they played another Power 5 institution.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. Yeah. For me to say it didn't help or wouldn't help would be a lie. It's also fun for us because it's the first week of classes on our campus. So the excitement around our students and everybody else in Stephenville is huge. So our goal is to pack the stadium and have one hell of a night.
Well, one other question, if you don't mind, Steve. You weren't, I think, there when they made the decision to make the transition. But would the transition have still been made even if you knew college athletics landscapes today?
Yeah, it's a great question because I don't know that you would have. Because here's the question you have. There is so much uncertainty on what it's going to look like. How many sports can you sponsor? How many sports will you sponsor? How many can you afford? That there would be a great deal more uncertainty if you were trying to make the transition now. I haven't looked at the numbers, but my guess would be if we ran them, the number of schools that are trying to make that transition now compared to what it was 3, 4, 5 years ago is probably significantly less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Steve, good luck.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know that I'd want to do that because the worst thing anybody can do is make the transition and then put yourself in a situation where you're not successful.
Yeah, we discussed this. Don McPherson, the former Syracuse great quarterback who's involved in many things, author, speaker, whatever, he was saying he's a Syracuse guy. The Big East and all that, but no longer a part of that. And he was saying at some point you have to, as a university, even a Syracuse, look at the way things are going and go, is this really what we want to keep doing, this arms race? And when people say that, well, you're just mad. No, but it's really, those are the decisions that ADs, presidents, alums, et cetera, and board of regents have to make.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to we've gotten away from the fundamental core mission of what college athletics was established for. I told somebody the other day, I believe it's time for us to get back to competing on the courts rather than in the court of law.
Yeah.
Because we're wasting a lot of time. And, the things that we were putting out 10, 12, 15 years ago in terms of young men and young women, you want to continue to do that. But education has become less of an emphasis. That's what's exciting about here at our level. It's we've still got kids that their focus is, hey, I want to play at the highest level. I want to graduate, and I want to go on and be successful. I also tell them we want you to make millions of dollars and donate half of it back. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's going to be a fun year for us here, and I hope we see you guys. I know we'll see you in Waco.
We'll see you in Waco, and hopefully see you at another time as well. Keep doing what you're doing, Steve. Thank you.
All right, bud.
Appreciate it. Steve Uryas, the AD at Tarleton State. Love his outlook on the way things are.
Yeah, they've had a lot of success. Their athletics department. I know they had a bunch of obviously news surrounding baseball here recently, but taking home a lot of awards in track and field, and just got the big announcement about that week 0 game in football. So, yeah, we'll see them, I guess, week 1 right across the street. So that'll be good. But, yeah, it seems like things are going really well. And, there's always seems like every year there's like that team that's ineligible because there's been so much conference realignment now, right? Yeah. There's been all these changes. Like, it always feels like there's a story a year in some sport on that. Yeah. And unfortunately,
who was it in football that they actually did get in because there weren't enough bowl teams?
James Madison.
Was it Madison? Was it Kennesaw State too?
James Madison, and then maybe Kennesaw State. Yeah,
but
I
there's
don't
always
quite
a
remember
couple
off the top
of
of my
them.
head.
Yeah, but they weren't a part of it.
Yeah, Tarleton, and we say this every time that we talk about them. They are Syracuse has the great media school and communications journalism school like Mizzou. Tarleton is that to high school football coaches.
Man, you're not lying.
I mean,
Stephen F. Austin and Tarleton feed high school football, but Tarleton's got a great pedigree.
Tarleton and Stephen F. Austin, like half the coaches in this state, like when you look at the list, it's like Tarleton. I say football coaches in general.
Yeah, no. So, it's exactly what they do.
I know 5 guys who just graduated from there that are all going into coaching.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you go.
I mean, you throw a rock at the THSCA convention, and you're going to hit a Tarleton State alum.
Yeah, you wouldn't go in there and be like, who stinks Tarleton?
Yeah.
You'd be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, you'd be in the corner getting kicked.
Just following. I think it was Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville,
not Kennesaw State.
That's right.
Kennesaw State's the new one.
Yeah.
They're new now.
Yeah. I did reach out to Kyle, a good friend, but I have not heard back from him. McBroom's the one that made the quote. But one of the parts of his quote about accepting immediate, like July 1st of this summer, where they had been before in the Southland Conference back in the 80s, one of the quotes was because they want to make sure they have stability, and yet you're moving. And so we'll reach out to get Mr. McBroom on the show and perhaps get feedback on exactly what that means.
By the way, just a little piece of news, not a major deal by any means, no breaking news warranted, but the Big 12 did throw out that they're going to announce some TV times tomorrow. So tomorrow at 1:30, we'll have that to talk about, that they'll, I don't know how many, but whatever's out there, an official will be able to grab that and talk a little bit about where these games are going to be on the scheduling as far as the TV times go, which is a minor thing, but I know there are people that get excited about that because then you can really start planning, right? You're like, oh, wait, this game's going to be 6 o'clock versus 11 a.m. Maybe you're going to go to Ames and watch that game.
It's part of the games.
Yeah.
It's like the schedule, then eventually the time, and eventually whatever else. All right, when we come back, we have been through since late last week the top 10 running backs according to Pro Football Focus in various conferences. Coming up next, it is the Big Ten. They got some dudes now. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for your automotive needs, and they've been the people that thousands of Central Texans and people from beyond the region have counted on for a variety of vehicle needs, whether that's getting into a brand new vehicle, whether that's getting into a pre-owned vehicle, or whether that's just getting your vehicle that you own right now into better shape. Right now, though, if you're looking to get into a new vehicle and you're about to maybe go on summer vacation, you're going camping solo or with your buddies or with your girl or guy or whatever, you're going on an amusement park trip with the family, whatever your summer vacation plans are, you want to be comfortable. And if you need space for your entire crew, then you need a Buick Enclave. The Enclave offers the quiet drive that you want, loaded with space-age technology, and it also delivers uncommon luxury at a common price. You can come experience a Buick test drive today, and when you do, you can also save thousands on the new Buick Enclave and also on the Buick Envision. Plus, military and first responders can save an additional $500. So you can see the dealer for more details there, but thousands in savings right now on the new Buicks. Also, their lot's fully loaded with tons of pre-owned cars and trucks, over 90 highly inspected used cars and trucks over there on the lot at Richard Carr. 100% credit approval, of course, is always their goal, as they say yes when others say no. So there's plenty more deals beyond that, and you can talk to the good folks with the best customer service that you'll find to get more information on the ins and outs and various prices and all of that, but plenty of options for whatever you're looking to get into this summer over at Richard Carr right now. For 25 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
We love TexasBeefHouse.com, the Duvall family, and everything they represent, their products, and also those who love to grill during the summer. We've discussed that with Samantha Duvall, who joins us, and now Father's Day is just around the corner.
We've got this year a Wagyu New York strip Father's Day bundle, and that will come with a package of our New York strips. There's 2 steaks to a package of our jalapeno and cheese patties, a package of our regular hamburger patties, a stick of summer sausage, and our garlic garlic links, and it's all online, TexasBeefHouse.com. This bundle will ship free in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So this is the perfect time to grab it because all of our steaks are only sold in auction. There will only be a limited number of these packages, so get online and order yours for your favorite dad out there. We're growing every day. Our biggest next step that we have is Bid on Beef. It is actually going to open the month of June with a sale up in New York, but this is going to be a website that we're going to do all of our beef auctions on, so it just makes it a lot easier, our own platform.
Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Father's Day, the summer, family reunions, and so much more, plus the ability to bid on beef. TexasBeefHouse.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at Marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. And only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations in Waco. And the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Craig mentioned the Arizona player who's going to take himself out, Jordan Love, out of the NBA draft and go back to Arizona. Caleb Love, excuse me. Jackson Robinson, BYU guard, really good player, is going to keep his name in the draft. Also, Alabama guard Mark Sears, who's an alpha, is going to return to Alabama and play for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, BYU also got the big commit yesterday.
Yeah, Paul, you sent that to him.
From the Real Madrid guy.
Igor Denim.
Yeah.
6'9" Russian guard, highly skilled, according to the report from Draft Express. One of the most talented recruits in program history, is committed to BYU and head coach Kevin Young.
And that's a Kevin Young pull right there.
Yeah.
Because that's a kid who could otherwise have gone played, see what he can do in the NBA or something like that. But now you've got an NBA guy in Provo, and that was obviously a huge hire for them. So, yeah, I think that's some of that effect, and that was big news for the Cougars basketball program. So, a lot of we think the football transfer portal, the basketball transfer portal's on a different level.
Well, yeah, when you only have 12 spots to have, and then eight of them leave every year in most programs now. It's tough. I do think the biggest one today, though, in the Big 12 was JT Toppin going to Texas Tech.
McCaslin's building himself a pretty damn good basketball roster.
Look, and Arthur Kaluma left the draft, and he could go back to Kansas State. He's in the portal. We'll see, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Based on the way K-State folks were reacting to that, it didn't seem like it was a sure thing that he was coming back to Manhattan. So, but Kaluma's out of the draft now, and then that JT Toppin, that's a huge get. That's one of the best players that was out there, just best players in general. And a guy who I think brings them some more electricity and a lot more talent. And they are, seems like, really setting up for a big run with McCaslin and company and that roster they're putting together next year. So, I think that they're going to make some noise for sure. And that was a huge get for them.
Yeah,
all right,
and I will, we'll get to the running backs in just one second.
No, we'll do it now.
But I do want to mention Arthur Kaluma probably not going back because they went and got Akor from Samford. But Akor is there at Kansas State now, and that's their big get for the offseason.
Which explains the lack of he's probably coming back to K-State. Yeah, that makes sense why that's not the given then.
Highest graded returning Big Ten running backs. Of course, there are some newbies because of the new schools too. Kyle Munningai. I watched highlights of him because I didn't watch Rutgers much last year, maybe a game or a half. Really good player. His dad was a running back, too. He is rated number 1 ahead of some pretty nice names on this list, but Kyle Munningai.
By the way, it's not so much who's on this list. There's a pretty notable name not on it that's in the Big Ten that is on a video game. And Donovan Edwards is not on this list.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't call him the most accomplished because he played behind Blake Corum, but he's had some big games. Of course, single-handedly defeated Ohio State a couple years ago. But I mean, when you put Quinshon Judkins and Joquavius Marks in the conference to go along with guys like Traven Henderson, Jonah Coleman was at Washington last year, was not their lead back either, but there's a lot of guys who did that. So.
All right, you just gave out 7 out of the 10 names. That's not fair.
No.
Jordan James, Oregon. Don't know much about him, but obviously he's got great stats. He's now just behind Munningai for the number 2 rated based on the Big Ten and Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, he saw more than a highlight or two. Dude had like double-digit touchdowns and nearly 1,000 yards. He had a huge year for the Ducks, and they are a really intriguing team entering the Big Ten. I mean, obviously you lose a good bit of talent, not Washington level of loss of talent the coaching change, but
they lost Bucky Irving, they lost Bo Nix.
Bo Nix is significant, but you can find a quarterback, I think, in that system and be okay.
It's Dylan Gabriel. So
that's right. Yeah, it's Dylan Gabriel. I got to remind myself of that. All the
Dylan Gabriel,
Yeah, F me. Like that, I totally already blacked out on that. But, him and Will Stein will be.
You just said, Dylan, leave. It's what you're good at.
Right,
I don't need you anymore.
It's kind of got to sink in. It was just, they replaced Bo Nix with a better quarterback probably. I mean, although I say that, Bo Nix had a terrific year, terrific year. And Dylan Gabriel, if he can match that, that would be obviously awesome for Oregon. If he surpassed that, then they're probably in the playoff.
Dylan Gabriel moved to Oregon because Oklahoma, am I right, made it clear that they wanted to go with Jackson Arnold because of the longer future with him, and they were ready for a change.
Yeah, they were ready for a change. I think it was time for the Jackson Arnold era to begin. And, it's one of those things where it's not even like you're a bad player, leave. It's just like sometimes you need change. And I think we've seen that here with quarterbacks that, somebody's been around for a while and you're like, all right, we've seen enough, but we got another guy now we want to watch. And so I think there was some element of that just because Arnold was so high profile and such a big get for them. But Gabriel's going to have a terrific weapon in Jordan James back there. Travion Henderson's obviously a really good player, but him and Quinshon Judkins seems a little low on this list for my taste. That's the first thing that jumped out to me, actually, was that he seemed a little bit low, but that's just me eyeing his name and going like, damn, he's pretty good. And to see him at like 7th out of 10 just was kind of surprising there initially. But I guess that's the second most surprising thing. The first, not surprising, but just kind of jarring thing is figuring out what we're looking at when I see Oregon's logo and USC's logo, and then it's mixed with all these Big Ten logos. That's just still taking some getting used to, but that's the reality we live in now. We've arrived where all those realignment moves are now getting into place. And there's no more, hey, when they enter in 2024, it's like we're here now. Like all those schools are in the Big Ten. Arizona, they're in the Big 12. Like I know it's not officially official. Oklahoma and Texas are in the SEC. It's just it's a crazy era we're about to enter with all these moves taking effect all at once. But yeah, I mean, go on if you had something else you want to add.
No, we still have the list up there. Henderson, obviously, at Ohio State. So you have two of those top, 6 or 7 with Buckeyes. One of them transferring in, which was, of course, Judkins from Ole Miss. Get away from that for a second. Do you, if I asked you and I put the clock on you, could you name every team in like 1 minute?
Oh, yeah.
In each of the Power 4 conferences?
In the Power 4, yes.
In a minute?
Yeah. The Power 4, absolutely.
You get stuck?
No. I could do it.
I mean,
no
there might come like a point where I need one more and I'm at like 54 seconds and I just can't get it in 6 seconds. But I feel very confident in like a minute or 2 minutes.
What would be the cutoff when it would be tough just because you have to say 16 or 18
That's right.
teams?
It's 16 teams. Yeah, it's a ton of teams.
I mean, I think a minute. I think I could do it in a minute.
Yeah, I think I could do it if I like sharpen my. I don't want to practice. That's not what I mean, but
that was my
I could
point,
probably
though.
do it in a minute.
Like take a deep breath. Like give me a second to like
All
run
right,
through it in my head.
All right, Paul. I got this timer on.
I'm trying to remember how many teams are in what league. That's the other thing you got to remind yourself.
I'm going to make it difficult because of just the numbers of team. But let's do. You ready? I'm going to start the
clock.
clock.
So let's get it very clear. There are how many teams in the Big Ten? There are 18 teams.
Yeah,
in the Big Ten.
That's
so
what
I'm getting
ready.
the Big Ten.
3.
I'm doing the Big Ten.
Yes.
Okay. Just verifying.
No one else has 18, right?
The ACC does.
They do have 18.
Yeah.
Well, that's right because see, I would have absolutely blanked on Cal. All right, let's go Big Ten now.
Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota. Oh, shoot.
Don't say it.
I'm at 13.
You've got plenty of time.
I have plenty of time? Okay.
You're hyperventilated.
Yeah. Penn State.
I forgot who you'd said.
I haven't kept track.
Wisconsin. Northwestern.
There you go.
Where are you at, 16?
I'm at 16, and I've left 2 out.
40 seconds.
I've got 40 seconds.
No, you have 20 seconds.
I have 20 seconds.
You missed 2. Okay.
I'm gonna be kicking myself when I hear them.
No, you will.
Hold on.
8 seconds.
8 seconds.
See, this is what I was talking about. You kind of freeze a little bit.
Well, I
Did
needed
you
to
say
keep track.
Iowa?
I did say Iowa.
All right, you out of time.
Ah, darn it.
I don't even know what.
Who did I leave out?
Minnesota.
No one kept track. I thought you were keeping track when you had your phone up.
Who did I leave out, Jack?
I don't know because you listed off like 4 at the beginning, but I'm pretty sure your fingers were at 5 when you'd only listed 4.
Yeah.
So I can't really help you there.
my
I'm asking
God.
Emery to like go back and watch.
No,
to
you
check,
might have listed
but-
22 teams, and you did it in time and included 18 from the Big Ten.
Hold on, I'm gonna look. I actually when you started doing this, I closed out a website that had the list because I was looking up the depth chart because I thought we were gonna talk about this. I left out Maryland and Illinois.
Yeah, there you go.
That's who I left
Craig,
out. Maryland and Illinois.
That was a harder conference to me. The ACC would have freaked me out. I would have completely blanked on the new ones coming in. All right, Craig, you don't have anything in front of you, do you?
No, I'm trying to figure out how many teams are in every conference nowadays.
It's 16, 16, 18.
All right, Craig, you ready? We'll do the ACC. Ready?
The ACC.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay.
Well, let's have fun. All right, go.
North Carolina State, Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Pitt, Syracuse. See, I do it a different way. I said Florida State, right? Yeah, Miami, yep. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Maryland. Where am I
Maryland's
at
Big Ten.
Maryland's Big Ten.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Shoot. I was going up the Eastern Seaboard here. See, it's hard when you can't keep track of who all I've said and where I am.
You got 30 seconds. I think you're at like 9 or 10.
Illinois.
See, I thought this one would keep thinking. I thought this would be difficult because of the teams that came in from the Northeast.
Said Pitt already, right?
And we had Donovan.
Syracuse
we
already.
We had McPherson on.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina State, Miami, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Syracuse, Clemson. Who am I missing here?
Time.
Louisville, BC.
Yeah.
SMU, Stanford.
Oh,
Cal.
God, yeah. I wasn't even thinking of them. See, I wasn't even thinking of them.
Yeah. And I would have absolutely.
See why I got quiet there? Why
Yeah.
I do this? So it's not good radio, but anything geographic. I've done this my entire life. I know all the states, so I go
Right.
through the states, and so that's why I'm just sitting here and I'm like Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and it's usually pretty effective, but not that time.
I cannot in this setup, although. I've kind of glanced into the chat room, but I haven't been able to get into it like I normally do, and I think the chat room's better off because of that. But I wonder how many people say they did it, but also, again, you didn't have a screen.
If you put a list in front of me and when you said one right and it filled it in, I feel very confident I could do that. Yeah, like I could feel very confident. But just going off of my head and trying to keep count, it's much more difficult.
All right, Gramps, your turn.
What are you doing?
I'll give you the easiest one, which I believe is the SEC.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Okay,
I think the Big 12 should be the easiest. It's
Well,
the one we work with all the time.
I would screw that one up. Okay, Gramps.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing who?
What we should do? SEC.
There's only
or Big
SEC
12?
left, or it's the Big 12, which I think would be a little bit of an unfair
The
advantage.
SEC, how many do they have?
16.
Okay.
All right, go. South Carolina, Mississippi State, Auburn and Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, Florida, Kentucky. I'm missing somebody obvious. I said South Carolina already. LSU.
You said them already.
I did? Okay. Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi. Georgia. For
Okay.
God's sakes, I forgot Georgia.
20 seconds.
How many I have?
I think you're at like 12.
Okay. I just got to get
15 seconds.
I say Arkansas. I've said Arkansas.
Oh, yeah. I think you're missing 3 or 4 right now.
I think I've got them. I've got 3 on the bottom. No, 4. I've got 4.
Jeff Lebby. I already did that. Mississippi State.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it.
Yeah, that's fine. Who did I know it's
You left out Missouri, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt.
I left out the Aggies.
Yeah, you're mentioning Oklahoma, Texas, and I was waiting on Texas.
And who? Okay, Missouri, A&M went together. Who was the other one?
Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
Oh, God dang, 2 teams. And I love the Vols. I like Tennessee. I've always liked Tennessee because I love the song Rocky Top.
Yeah, you said you always say that when you bring them up. They're
I just think it's a great
interesting. It's one of the better fight songs out there, if not for some people probably the best one. But yeah, it's harder. Like if I went on a quiz site and said list the teams and it gave me 5 minutes and it listed them as I typed them in, I could do this for every conference without breaking a sweat. But yeah, when it's like, did I say Auburn or did I?
So I missed 2 clues.
We would need a ding. We need a ding. That way you can
I missed Tennessee, the state.
I think
and I missed A&M and Missouri.
The thing to remember though is with these new changes is the best way to remember it is the 2 biggest conferences, or no, it's what the Big Ten's at 18 and the ACC's at 18. Yeah. So it's not the 2 biggest, but yeah, Big Ten and ACC are at 18, and then the Big 12 and the SEC are at 16.
Yeah,
and so that's what we got to remember now.
Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 would be just a matter of remembering.
I'm not going to do it. You're not going to make.
I mean, that would be simple. They're doing the Big 12.
Not necessarily. I mean,
okay.
No.
I mean.
You want to do it?
Do you want me to do it?
I'll take this one if you guys want.
I'll do it.
Okay, Jack wants to do it. Okay.
Jack, all right, go.
All right.
Should I go now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Houston, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State. We already said Houston. Cincinnati, West Virginia, UCF, BYU, Utah, Colorado, Arizona State.
Boom, 30 seconds.
You did the geography thing, didn't you? In some ways, you kind of clumped it.
25 seconds.
That's awesome, Jack. Yeah, I think I would have done it eventually, but I think I would have probably blanked on, with all due respect to one of our favorite schools, Kalani Sitake, just because that would be easier to me than Big 12 because you could do the 4 incoming schools.
If you're going to do that, you better not also say Utah and then forget BYU or vice versa.
I know.
I'm looking back to me forgetting Maryland. And when I was in college, Maryland, we played Maryland and everything.
No, so I said them initially. I was like, yeah, ACC,
I think
Maryland.
I can honestly tell you this, even knowing they're in the Big Ten, because they are such an also-ran in that league, and no offense to Maryland. I love you, little adorable turtles. But I've never once thought of them as a Big Ten team. Like, I've never thought.
No.
I've never once had that. You know, I think of Ralph Friedgen, and I think of those kind of things.
I think of I think of the basketball Lefty Driesell and all that. All right, you want to do one more?
We've done all four.
All
right, I'll do the Pac-12. Oregon State, Washington State,
done. I'm trying to find out if I can get a list of the old Big East.
The old Big East, no. Yeah, no.
Golly, that was fun because they have a lot of that. Mainly basketball would be almost impossible, but some great basketball. All right,
I want to know where to begin with some of the smaller leagues now.
I think we just started a new segment.
Yeah,
I think we just started a new segment. Like we can start doing the top 10 most this and that, and give us like half a minute or whatever. That was fun.
Look, Smokey, could you name half the teams in the Sun Belt?
No, I could not name half the teams.
You mean the Fun Belt?
The Fun Belt.
Here's the problem. Just like with the Autonomy 4, the Sun Belt, the American, Conference USA, they've all blended into like a nice thing of gumbo.
The Sun Belt's actually great when you look at the geography and the way.
Where's UAB?
They are in the I don't know.
They are the American, right?
I think the American.
That's my whole point. They've flipped. They've flipped so many different times. It's like SFA going back to the Southland Conference. I mean, and that's.
Yes. Yeah, they're the American.
Okay, all right. When we come back, Paul Catalina. I enjoyed it. Like my heart started pumping fast.
It's good though, but there's been trickle down effects, and now it's like there's teams moving from the whatever to the Sun Belt or the whatever to the American, and it's you kind of they're not as focused on, and so it's kind of harder. Like, did they go 2 years ago, or did they? There's
like
just
UTSA,
so much of that.
North Texas, they've
flipped around. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's just been so many other movements that we don't talk about nearly as much that aren't as obvious, and you're just like, damn, that's right, that happened last year or whatever, and it's just more the craziness.
I would love for us to host a college football game show.
Oh, I would love to, if you could have the equipment, the ding, and the board, like you guys do it with this thing. Like
I'll find a way to make it happen.
Tomorrow we're going to do head coaches who start with the letter Z.
Yeah. Now, I would like to college football press your luck. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Stop.
Yeah. Like a Price is Right type board. Mm-hmm. I would just I would just love that. I would sponsor that and pay for us to do that.
Like a big wheel?
Like bing.
We have a wheel.
Like I love when Richard Dawson, and who does it now? What's the guy's name? He's
Steve
funny.
Harvey.
Steve Harvey's funny as hell. You have the little, you press the button. I would do anything if we could do that.
Yeah.
Work on it.
College football themed Family Feud would be great. College sports themed Family Feud would be
awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, most Heisman winners. It would be great. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hello, Governor. Paul Catalina's Top 5, presented by Texas Beef House. Yes, I will have a different greeting every day during the summer, if only to bother Jack and to entertain Emery. But today, after yesterday, I put on my full Joan Rivers makeup and trash people's fashion. I feel like I should go and compliment some people with some great alternate uniforms in college football. This is a little bit tougher. There's a lot of really cool ones, and I could do a top 5 list of just the Army and Navy game and just Oregon. Like, that's how good some of those uniforms are. But these are the top 5 best alternate uniforms in college football. And we have a repeat visitor on the list this week, one that was on yesterday. So they have redeemed themselves. Number 5, FIU, Miami Vice. Oh, you just hear the Phil Collins right there. You see those lights. You see those colors. You see Don Johnson, Philip Michael Thomas on a boat, no socks, suit jacket pushed up, even though nobody in Miami wears suit jackets, but they did in the 80s, people. They did in the 80s. They didn't care about the humidity. They just wanted to stop coke dealers. And that's what this uniform is all about, stopping coke dealers and being cool in Miami. And just looked really good and evoked what is one of the few good things about that city, Miami Vice. A simpler time. Number 4, the UCF Space jerseys. Now, their QR code jerseys were an unmitigated disaster. I think the whole world can agree on that. Much like the firing of Major League Baseball umpire Angel Hernandez, those QR code jerseys looked terrible. But these Space jerseys, my God, should be so proud of yourself with this blue here. Looks so great, different, pops. I'd be fired up to wear these every single year. Absolutely. Excellent work in the Big 12, UCF. Also, staying in the Big 12, one of my favorite stories overall, number 3, the Houston Love You Blue kind of jerseys. Bringing back the old days of the Houston Oilers. Now, the Tennessee Titans in the NFL filed a cease and desist on this, but A.D. Chris Pesman, who's a friend of our show, basically said, no, we're going to find a way to wear these because our fans love them. They are synonymous with the city of Houston. And since the Texans can't wear them, we're going to do it, and we're going to fight for Columbia Blue here in Houston because it is a fabric of the sports history of the city, plus the fans went nuts for them. And I'm assuming Houston made some good coin on these as well, people buying Columbia Blue Houston Cougar uniforms. So keep fighting the good fight, Houston, and keep bringing back these jerseys as much as you can, even if they have to have a little slight tweak so as you don't violate copyright law. We're all behind you here at 365 Sports. Number 2, the Ohio State All Grays. I mean, look how relaxed this guy is in this all gray. Jack says no, or just didn't like the picture. but the Ohio State all grays. I thought this was a smooth look for them. And normally classic teams like Ohio State, I don't like it. Jack doesn't like it, but it's not his top 5. But the smooth all gray here, look how relaxed they are. I thought that looked good for them. I think they should bring this back. And again, look at this guy. He's just waiting for a Mai Tai after the game or something. Like he's got his hand open like, here, where's my drink? Just relaxed and happy. That uniform and victory evokes that. Don't know who that is because of the visor, but still, he looks relaxed. And number 1, the LSU whiteouts. My gosh, I love these uniforms. LSU's worn white uniforms before, but last year was the first year they wore the white helmet. And I thought this looked really, really good. I think this is something that shouldn't even necessarily be an alternate. I think they should just roll this in to their regular uniform palette. It was that good. And, of course, it looks even better when a Heisman Trophy winner is wearing it there in Jaden Daniels. But I thought these looked really, really good. Garrett's not here today, so I thought I would do something to make him feel good as he watches at home, as he does every single segment of every day when he's not here, because that's what all of our producers do. They're up on everything. But the LSU whiteouts I thought were smooth, good-looking uniform. They should add this into the regular rotation and take it off of alternate, and then maybe do like a Tiger King theme, and so I can make fun of them later on. This has been the top 5 best alternate uniforms of the last couple years. We're back to wrap it up right now.
All right, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. I had a conversation with Samantha Duvall, and they have a Father's Day special, which is starting now. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com for that information. It's kind of a value pack. And they also have a link to what they'll be doing, Bid for Beef, which is what has been exploded and has been explosive for them in a good way since they started those auctions a few months ago.
I would add, I like LSU's white, purple, white a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I love those uniforms. The white helmets, purple jersey, white pants.
I didn't see it. I love white. I always have. What were your 5, Paul?
It was the Miami Vice from FIU uniforms. It was the space jerseys from UCF.
Okay.
I really like those. Love you blue kinda.
Right.
You can't go all the way with that one. Then I liked the all grays that Ohio State wore last year. I thought those were really, really good. Jack wholeheartedly disagrees with me. I
can see where that one's like more debatable for folks because it's not like a home run necessarily for everybody.
But I thought it looked really good. We got Super Chat. There we go. And number 1 was the all-white LSUs. So,
yeah,
Retired stockbroker. Thank you very much.
I love the purple, white, or the white, purple, white LSU ones. And I don't have to get some thought on how I'd fill out. But, yeah, it's a good list. It's fun to watch those uniforms.
Thought about this. And which college football program, if they did change their jersey, would make you go, what? Because they don't.
Texas or Penn State?
Yeah.
Alabama?
Well, Alabama's thrown some alternates out there, I think.
I don't know if they've had alternates.
Has USC done alternates before?
They've changed. They wore more of their white on white last year, which looks sharp. I mean, it's hard to screw up white.
Yeah, if Texas
it really
did
is.
it, but Texas would be absolutely Penn State. Yeah.
The only thing I've ever seen Texas change or do a throwback is they've put the numbers on the helmet one time again.
Yeah, they did when they ran the wishbone.
Yeah,
Bertelsen
and it might have been honoring a certain
Darryl
team,
Royal?
or maybe
Tommy Novus.
Yeah, so they put the numbers on the helmet again. But other than that, that's
their
throwback is numbers.
Whether you like Texas or not, and we have a lot of it in the chat that do and don't. That horn, that logo is. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I see some people mock up black helmets with orange face, and they look hideous. I think that you got a perfect all-white helmet. Why would you screw that up?
Burnt orange is not a color that goes with a lot of things. Right? So, and that's true for most college colors.
I think black and burnt orange is a hard combo to always pull off. But, no, I mean, they've got great unit. But, yeah, there's a lot of – we'll see tomorrow. Baylor's alternate unis that they're probably releasing in the morning. We'll see how good those go over. But, yeah, it can be hit or miss, but there's some really good ones out there.
I wonder how many – and, again, the burnt orange is a unique color. How many Texas fans actually think burnt orange is a beautiful color?
I think all of them.
All of them do.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a hard, a rusty kind of look. It's kind of hard to kind of look at that color.
It's a pretty popular color, actually, like style-wise, the last few years.
Yeah. No, it is. My parents, when we lived in the house in Florida, the house was blue when we bought it. It was a blue. And so my mom couldn't take it and wanted to change the paint. And then, so she wanted to paint it white. And then the accent color, she picked out like what she thought was like an auburn or like an umber.
Oh, your dad lost his mind.
I remember like standing outside when it got done, and I looked at my dad immediately, and he goes, "Yeah, no, I saw it the other day. I guess, she's happy. Like, that's it." And it was like another week before he's like, "You know what you painted my house, right?"
Yeah. It became the color. It became burnt orange.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like once it hit the air,
That's why painting inside the house or outside the house is so difficult, because it does the fade.
Especially when you're dabbling in orange.
I'll tell you, it looks really good, though. I mean, like,
that's what I'm saying. It's like you watch, like, fashion-wise, it's become a popular color and things like that. But, it looks sharp anyways. Like, there's a lot of cool uniforms. I don't know who all's debuting new ones this year. We talked about Iowa State has a new set, Baylor, West Virginia, just in that league. And, Houston's obviously leaning into the Oilers tribute, so that's cool. UCF's always going to do their thing. That's just one league too. I don't know what else everybody else has got cooked up, but that is part of the stuff that I like to see. I wonder how that's addressed in the new video game too. I know Matt Brown had a big in-depth story behind the paywall on his experience.
There was a lot of guys that went down and played the game.
Right.
Vanini, I think.
But that's an element I hadn't really thought about, is like your uniform options, because for some people that's also a big deal, is having the ability to play in your different uniforms. So anyways.
Penn State, Texas are like home, away.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Just exactly right. Jack McKenzie runs the mothership again today. Garrett might be back with us tomorrow. Hopefully he will be. And then Emery Winter just sits there and does a lot, constantly chewing away at what he's doing when it comes to 365 Sports Tonight. 4 segments on the local CW. And Craig Smoak, thank you. Paul Catalina, thank you. I was much more comfortable today in this chair than I was yesterday.
Well,
I feel like I'm I'm much more comfortable. We'll do this the rest of the week, and then when I get back from whenever it is the vacation, we'll see.
Well, here's what's going to happen. I think I'm going to move over there full time in a different kind of setup if we can get it done.
What are we going to do with that?
The desk, I'm going to move there. You're going to be here.
No, you don't get first pick.
Oh, okay.
Is it a stand-up?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I think that's what I want to do.
Because I did TV that way. We'll discuss it. All right, thank you guys. Thanks to our great sponsors. Tomorrow, back at it, triple option 1 to 2 and 365 Sports Tonight every afternoon at 3. I'm David Smoak. Good night.